Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Conscious Man 7 podcast. I am your host, Todd Cave, and this is podcast 36. On this episode, I was a guest on the Cult of Conspiracy podcast hosted by Jonathon and Jacob, and this was an amazing conversation. It was such an epic conversation that it went for 3 hours. So I'm giving you early notice that this is a long one, but it is a conversation that I think you're going to like a lot because we covered on many different topics, from the Anunnaki to spirituality to consciousness to current affairs to economics to health. It was a very good encapsulating conversation on everything that I talk about, and I tried my best to link them all together because in reality everything is linked, and a lot of things that people believe in religion are true or not really true because, as I've said before, the Bible is an amalgamation of other books, and especially the Genesis story comes out of the Atlantis and the Enuma Elish, and also is part of what you call the 7 tablets of creation, which all came out of Mesopotamia. So this was a very interesting conversation because, as I've said before, religion is one of the worst inventions ever given to man by the Anunnaki because it takes us away from our connection to source, and it is the cause of why there are many wars on earth and why we do very bad things, all in the name of religion, because as the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. If you are new to this podcast, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and to share because that helps us to be recommended in the algorithms. If you would like to support this podcast, please check out our merch store on Amazon with the brand Todd and Me. We've got some cool t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and sweaters. Link will be in the description of this podcast. And if you're now starting a spiritual journey, you would like to start a spiritual journey, or you're currently on a spiritual journey and you would like some help removing some fears and traumas, please hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246 and it will help you to get some magic mushrooms. Enjoy the show and stay tuned because we have some more great content coming soon.
When truth is blurred by lies and misinformation, perception becomes reality. What will you perceive your reality to be?
Liberate your fears and walk with me.
Sit down and meditate. Connect with your soul.
Be a monster and then learn how to control it.
You gotta be willing to do the work.
So it really goes really deep in terms of words and etymology and what they mean. So this is why it is really hard to really crack the matrix because there's so many levels and layers to it,
Hello and welcome to the show. This is the Cult of Conspiracy, and my name's Jonathan.
I'm Jacob.
And today we have on a guest that will absolutely blow minds. This is why we have invited him to the show. He's made an appearance on the Meta Mysteries, and he blew me and Sean's mind all night long, dude. It was great. But with that being said, it's time for a different kind of conversation. Welcome to the show, Todd Cave.
Hello, and good evening, good morning, good afternoon to where everyone are, and I'm happy to be here and to have a great conversation tonight, Because on Meta Mysteries, it was pretty dope. I listened to that podcast twice because it was absolutely, to be honest, I think it's one of my favorites I've ever done, one of the best I've ever done, and I'm happy to be here and to speak to another side of the audience,
No doubt. Now, let me ask you, Todd, I'm picking up an accent here, but I don't want to generalize, but it sounds islander. Where are you from?
I was born in Barbados.
Barbados. Okay, so my bosses are from VI. And then one of my best friends is from, actually a couple of them from St. Thomas, and I got a couple of people from St. Lucia. So I'm picking up island slang when I can,
Yeah. Very good. And the thing is, I lived in England for many years, so my accent kind of is a bit of a mixed bag because I used to be a civil engineer and I used to work with a lot of Irish and Scottish and people from Newcastle.
Oh, God, dude, that accent went over real well up that far north, didn't it?
Yeah, so working with them for so long, you kind of picked up a bit of their twang, and so my accent is very, very mixed, to be honest.
I love it, man. I love it. All right, so me knowing nothing about you, you've already made an appearance on Meta Mysteries. Tell the cult members who may not have heard you yet a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're coming from, so to speak.
Okay, so well, my name is Todd Cave. I was born in Barbados, and basically when I was there, I had a normal upbringing. And what happened to me when I was really young, think I was like 10 years old or something like that. My father, he started to do investigation for the truth and stuff. And basically what happened is that he started to research Islam, and he would bring home a lot of their doctrine and a lot of their books. So we have a Quran at home. So when I was young, he would be telling me all these kind of things. So I would say he kind of sowed a lot of doubts in my mind about religion and Christianity and stuff but it was only enough for me to question, And then when I got old and I went to England, obviously in a big country, you get exposed to a lot of different things. And I kind of got exposed to like different ideas. And one of the things that kind of really started my waking up process is after the 2007-2008 crash. And I would never forget that the government, they're pretty much like all the governments around the world, they rewarded the bankers for crashing the economy. So they actually paid them bonuses and stuff. So that kind of always sowed some seeds into my consciousness that, hold on a minute, the system is rigged, because they, they crashed the economy and they got massive, massive bailouts. And then obviously you heard the too big to fail narrative and all that kind of stuff. And then
so you were in England in 2008 when this crash took place, correct?
Yes, I would never forget it because it affected me in terms of work, because I had to take a job that I didn't want to take because the economy had crashed. And one of the things is that in civil engineering, engineering in general, civil engineering for the most part is one of the biggest litmus tests for an economy. When there's no cranes, when there's no investment, when there's no construction, it means that the economy is actually on its way down. So what happened is that normally in that time, England and the UK in general was going through a building boom, but there was a massive contraction in the economy. So there was no investment, there was no real work. So I had to take a job that I didn't want to take in order to work. So I'll never forget that. And then when you fast forward a few more years, what happened to me is that I started to learn a little bit more about the economic side of how things work, about precious metals, cryptocurrency, and learning, all these kind of new technologies. Then following people that were online on YouTube at the time, like Jeff Berwick, David Morgan, and all these kind of Craig Henke, as he goes by the name Turd Ferguson, all these type of people, kind of really Mike Maloney as well. They kind of opened up that aspect of understanding that the economy is all rigged. Fiat currency, so promissory notes is not real. And then a few years ago, almost 7.5 years to be exact, I had life-changing surgery on my foot. So what that did is that caused a series of dominoes in my life to fall. And everything that I had valued, thought was important, meant a lot to me, was pretty much taken away from me. I lost almost everything. And
I'm very sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah. Thanks, man. And then also my identity. So I went through a massive, massive spiritual awakening. Some people call it the dark night of the soul. I call it the refinement period. Like how you refine gold, where when you have the ore, you heat it, and then you can get 14 karat. Then you heat it some more, you can get 18. Then you heat it some more, you get 24. When you heat it even more, it goes into monatomic gold, which is pretty much almost colorless,
Yeah.
So what happened then with me is that at the time YouTube was still pretty good. I found some pretty good YouTube channels that basically blew my mind. One of them was, at the time, the channel was called The Global Witness. And now the channel is called The Willing Witness. And he basically started to delve into a lot of these occultic stuff, but with a different twist, where he was actually bringing you the receipts and telling you the books to read and coming up with some very, very unusual sets of information that pretty much broke the complete narrative about, what we think is God, Jesus, what Christ is, religion, where it come from. And a lot of this information is actually coming out of like ancient texts, like the Sumerian tablets. So what happened is that I pretty much because I was on crutches, because I had surgery on my foot, I was on crutches for 15 months and I had a lot of time on my hands. So I pretty much started to devour books like they were breakfast, like they were food. And I started to just read and read and read and read. And the more I read, because I was very, very skeptical about the stuff that he said. So some of the things like he said that in the Garden of Eden, where it says, for example, well, when God was walking in the Garden of Eden, he was looking for Adam. So he posed the question, okay, so God was walking. So how can God be walking? And I was like, that's actually a very good question. How God is supposed to be omnipresent, omnipotent, a spirit, which is basically you can't see. How can God be walking? So questions like that. Then he came up with other things like, well, the actual allegory for the serpent in the Garden of Eden is not what we think. In actual fact, the serpent was actually an extraterrestrial god called Enki. And he's like, well, Enki is the creator of this physical body. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. So I started to read these books and these tablets, and I was like very shocked. And it was like, it can't be. So I just kept reading more and more and more and more. And then it came to a point where it was like, well, there's several sources that are seeing these things. So like Sherlock Holmes says, if you remove everything that is impossible, the only thing left that may seem impossible is most likely the truth. So this is where I am at now. And basically what it is now is that I have realized that there are this is what I have coined. I call it the three main religions that control Earth and create the matrix. One is the religion of government, one is the religion of money, and the next one is organized religion. And all three are fake. There is no religion on Earth that is actually bona fide, real, and does anything for humanity. They're all false. And I have delved extremely far down the rabbit hole, and I can show receipts to confirm the things that I say. And what I would say, though, is that because all of this information is very deep, dense, and difficult, for some reason, I seem to have the ability to retain a lot of this information and also to explain it in a way that kind of makes sense. Because, to understand basically who we are, what we are, and where we've come from, we have to go back to the Sumerian tablets. And the Sumerian tablets are the oldest sets of information we have on Earth. And what we do know is that they're about 5,500 years old, and they're written in a system called cuneiform. And they are about from the time of 3,200 to 3,400 BC. And these records document events that go up to 450,000 years ago and talk about a group of deities called the Anunnaki, who appear to be what we call the fallen angels, the Nephilim, and Nephilim in the Bible, and the Watchers in the Book of Enoch. So when you examine these texts, you realize that these tablets are, and the stories in these tablets are actually the original texts, and that all of the other texts that come after it are mere copies from the original text with just a few redactions like name changes and stuff. Now, there's this one document, there's one tablet in particular that tells us a little bit of this tale, and it is called the Sumerian King's List. And it says, and it's written on the King's List, it says, after the kingship descended from heaven. Now, the heaven really only means the sky. The kingship was in Eridu. We know that Eridu, because in the 1800s and the early 1900s, there was massive excavations, and we found a lot of these cities. So Eridu is actually in a place called Mesopotamia, which is actually in present-day southern Iraq, and these tablets are all in this Middle Eastern region. So this is one of the reasons why the Middle East is always a very contentious area, because what we find is that these Anunnaki gods seem to have made that area their power base. So they have like ziggurats, they have places that could be considered launch pads for spaceships and stuff. And you find that this area is between two main rivers. One is the river Euphrates, and the next one is the river Tigris. And then you have to the north, you have the Zagros Mountains. So then also you find that they also had some handiwork in Egypt, and that area is called the Fertile Crescent, which is from the two rivers, the river Tigris and the river Euphrates, and goes into the river Nile. So one thing we need to realize is that where there's water, there's civilization. Where there's civilization, there are people. And these extraterrestrials always set up in areas where there was water, because water is life, right? So when we look on this Sumerian kings list, we see that we have a group of 8 immortal kings, as we call them, that they ruled for a total time of 241,200 years. And we see that we have characters like Alulim that ruled for 28,800 years. We have other characters like Amenluana, who ruled for 43,200 years. And then after 241,200 years, we had the flood. So the flood that it talks about in the Bible, when you actually read the Genesis story properly, there actually seem to be 2 floods, while most people think there's one. But in reality, when you look back at these sources, there's been more than one flood and more than one cataclysm that's actually hit Earth. So what it is now is that we know that the Bible was canonized in 325 AD by the Council of Nicaea, when Constantine converted. And what they did is that they pretty much chose which books to put in the Bible, which really created a narrative. And what it is now is that they injected a lot of their pagan practices into Christianity, so that through the back door, we're worshiping a lot of those extraterrestrial gods, because the Romans are actually descendants of the Egyptians. The Egyptians are descendants of the Sumerians, and the Sumerians are the ones that wrote this information. And Sumeria was one of the restarts after one of the cataclysms. So we know that basically everything that we've been told in mainstream narrative, whether it is religion, science, history, is all a narrative, is all made up. And when you go back to the actual sources, it completely blows open a lot of the things, the talking points that we're told to repeat and to believe in, right?
Can I ask about those sources?
Sure. So one of them is called, one of the sources is called the Atrahasis, and then the next one is called the Enuma Elish. And these are basically talking about they're what we form the 7 tablets of creation through the Epic of Gilgamesh. And it talks about the Genesis story. It talks about stuff that, like in the book of Enoch, where it talks about the fallen angels. So basically, the Sumerian tablets are saying that, I thought my computer went off.
Well, the reason why I'm asking about these sources is because, like Sumeria, it is a very fascinating civilization to dive into, and we know this because we can read their cuneiform B language and all of these things, and it is incredible. I agree. But it's also interesting that we didn't know they existed 100 years ago. Like, no history book 100 years ago taught that civilization started before Egypt. Pretty much cavemen, one thing led to another, Egypt. Anything on Sumeria, all of our sources are really only documented within the last century. And I find that crazy, because if they are such a linchpin in so much of history, why are we only just now finding out about them?
Well, you got to look at it from a different angle too. Like he was saying, like, why are we always at war in the Middle East? Ancient Mesopotamia, that's where a lot of the old shit's at. And think about it. There were Christian conquerors all over the fucking world during a specific time. And
not in Samaria, dude. Christians weren't a thing for thousands of years until after Sumerians.
What I'm saying is that around that time, I mean, I don't think it's that far-fetched to believe that the Catholic Church got their dirty little greasy hands on as many fucking spiritual books as they possibly could and hid them away so that they can saddle up everybody else to believing into that kind of stuff. That's just where my mind goes. But here's another.
Saying that the Catholic Church hid the fact that Samaria was a place.
No.
What it is?
Okay, maybe I misunderstood. I'm sorry.
No, just the teachings is what I'm saying. Like
right, the teachings.
No, I'm saying even Sumerian tablets or these cuneiform texts or any of that stuff. Like from 1900, we didn't know about that. There was no college on Earth.
That's not true. They actually started to find them in the 1800s, and there's some really good people like Germans that have translated these, and then they also were doing excavations in the 1940s after the Second World War and stuff.
But they started finding artifacts in the 1800s, but they didn't know exactly what they were finding or how to categorize it until the 1900s.
Well,
and also they were not able to translate the tablets because they didn't know how to.
Exactly, correct. They were finding the tablets, absolutely, in the 1800s, but they didn't know, correct. They weren't translating them yet. I want to say in the 1920s is when they may have like broken the code, and I think the 1940s is when they really like started compiling and like getting group efforts in the breakdown of the cuneiform B language. I think I may be wrong on this, but I think that you're correct.
So there's another point that I kind of wanted to bring up too, and that is like, all right, so just because something wasn't found until 100 or 200 or 250 years ago, however long ago it was, doesn't necessarily take away from its validity, right? Like, I mean, because it wasn't that long ago we found the Dead Sea Scrolls. It wasn't that long ago that we found, what's the one that, the Nag Hammadi, like whether you agree with that kind of stuff or not. Fair. It's like, some of this stuff is hidden or stolen or taken, and I mean, if that information fell into the wrong hands, we probably wouldn't even know this.
I hear this, but all right, so Egypt. And granted, we can go back and forth on who built the pyramids and why, and like we may never actually know that answer to a T. Fine, get that. But as far as a thriving civilization goes, our history books only went back so far up until I would say, relatively recently, right? And I'm happy that they do. And you're right. Finding all of these things about Samaria opened the doors for more information and new ways of looking at things and new perspectives. But I wouldn't go as far as to say that the Egyptians were like the descendants. I don't want to say that. Like, when you said that earlier, Todd, did you mean like actual blood descendants, or did you mean like the descendants of their ideas, so to speak? Because like Greece was to Rome what I've heard the similar thing happened here, because like all of the Greek gods, pantheons, the Romans literally copy and pasted and put new names on and that whole shebang. So are you saying that Samaria and Egypt are something similar in that regard?
Well, what we can see from the information is that Samaria and the land of Cam, because it wasn't called Egypt at the time, they were connected. And these Anunnaki gods, they are the ones that taught those people the information, because we know that that Egypt is actually, for example, the Sphinx is a lot older than they tell us.
It predates the flood.
It predates the flood, and the last ice age we had, which was the Younger Dryas, is about 12,000 years ago. So when you look at the weathering on the base of the Sphinx, it is from water weathering. It is not from sand, and it's not from wind. I am a civil engineer, and I can look at it and I can tell you that is water weathering. And
you can look at the base of it. It is clearly water erosion that created these cracks. That's not, there's no other way that was formed. I'm sorry.
Right. So that means then that the Sphinx had to have existed pre the flood. And the last flood, it was about 12,000 years ago. Now, when you actually look at the pyramids and you look at the Sphinx, they're aligned to the star systems of Sirius and Orion. And in the Sphinx particular case is actually aligned to Leo. So we have the technology now that we can go back and look to see these alignments and the precession, the equinox, etc. And we know that Leo was only in alignment with the Sphinx about 38,000 years ago. So that means now that if the Sphinx was in exact alignment to where Leo was, and the Sphinx wasn't a pharaoh's head, it was actually a lion's head, because some information out there shows that one of the seed races or the founder races on Earth was a feline, which was a lion. So, which is another topic, but we know that the Sphinx was in alignment to Leo, and that's 38,000 years ago. So that means then that we're talking that the land of Kham existed way before they're telling us. And what that would do is that that would confirm some of the other things that we're finding on Earth. We're finding lost cities underneath, like places like Cuba. So there's a discovery just off the shores of Cuba where we're finding like these underwater cities. Then you go into Japan, there's underwater cities as well there. You've actually found one recently off the coast of Egypt where there's some fantastic hieroglyphics and statues that like are actually underwater now. And these are like not very, very deep that you can actually go dive in and see. So what it means then is that those places would have to have been dry for them to have been constructed in those places. And the last time we know that we had massive sets of water on Earth was 12,000 years ago. And then in case of the Sphinx, we know that that would have to predate that because of the star alignment that is at with. And every single set of pyramids, the pyramids in China, the pyramids in Teotihuacan, the pyramids in Egypt, all aligned to Sirius, all. So it means then that what Plato was talking about in the terms of Atlantis did exist, but it was not just one place. Because what's happened is that even though in the Timaeus and the Criticus, it talks about the ring city, and the ring city most probably could have been that place in Mauritania, or there's another thought that it's actually off the coast of the Azores Islands. But regardless, Atlantis seemed to have been a civilization that was across the entire planet. Because when we look at the construction, the type of rocks that were used, basalt and other rocks that are extremely hard, that we don't even have the tools to work those now and to cut them with the precision, right?
Okay, I was about to say, we know the tools are working, but you mean with the precision? I was about to say, I just watched the dude flint knap basalt, but that's to make like a edged weapon. We're not talking about laser cutting. You're correct, sir.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no gaps between these rocks, you know?
Yeah.
And then these stones are like, I think there are over 2 million stones in the Pyramid of Giza. Yeah. And each stone is a different size, and each stone weighs a few tons. Now, even if you can get them lifted, to get them to be with no space between the rocks, that's a different level of technology, you know?
Now, let me ask you this, and Jonathan, you too. I would love to hear both of y'all. And this is not me trying to be a stick in the mud, because I do, in fact, believe the pyramids of Egypt were not built by humans, or at least not humans using, slave labor and just good old elbow grease. I'm sorry. I'm calling full on bullshit on this.
Not modern day humans anyway.
Right. Now, okay, so you want to talk about some giants? Now, that's a different conversation, okay? But there is, and I wish I could remember the gentleman's name. He's a British guy, and he has made tons of videos showing how simple levers and simple mechanics can move huge stones, multiple ton stones. He can cut them very square. And I mean, granted, it's just some old dude, some old bloke, if you will, from England. And he's showing all these examples. Now, it's impressive to a degree, right? Showing how simple mechanics and how a lever used properly can, in fact, like move the world, quote unquote. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think that's a compelling enough argument to say, oh, that's how they built the pyramids. It was from little tricks of the trade like this. But there are other pyramids around the world that this actually I could see being a thing. The Great Pyramid of Giza, that's too incredible to say it was a couple of levers and ropes. You know what I'm saying? But I've seen other examples of pyramids not built as well that I could argue was built in this type of manner. What are y'all's thoughts?
Well, I think personally, like it's built to such a level of perfection, dude. The mathematics around it alone, like let alone let alone it being set perfectly to Orion's belt, let alone it being, the number, I can't remember exactly what it is, but basically the circumference is something to do with the Earth or something like that. It's been a minute.
Base. In the base, like squared
the actual footprint of the Pyramid of Giza fits into the Earth's shape. So in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, Thoth said, "I, Thoth the Atlantean, the great builder of the pyramid in the land of Cam." He said that he designed the pyramids in the Earth's shape, right? So when you take the base and the apex of the pyramid and you scale it up 43,200 times, it fits completely into the shape of the Earth, right? Now, the problem here now is that we have two camps, people that talk about flat Earth, people that talk about round Earth. Now, where I stand is I think they're actually both correct. I think the Earth is both flat and round because it is basically a toroid. So it will have two flat tops and a round side. So this is how you're able to have an inner Earth, which is what Admiral Byrd described in 1947 when he went to Antarctica. So what it is now is that my humble opinion is that the flat Earth is a psyop to actually cause division amongst the masses to keep us infighting, when both camps are actually correct, because a toroid shapes like a donut. So it would have a flat top, flat bottom, and a round side. Most probably we live on the flat top part, right? But the round part, and the thing is, we don't even have actual footage of the Earth actually zoomed right out. No one actually has footage of the Earth at a high enough altitude to definitively say whether it's flat, a square, or round. So
okay.
That's why I think that is a bit of a psyop there.
I love that you're saying that, because literally everything you just said, somehow you magically agree with me and Jacob at the same time. Well, in the sense, first off, I've been saying that it's a fucking double. He
literally said the things that I've heard you say. This guy is like your twin from another time zone, dog.
Yeah, I agree. He's a brother from another mother. Ain't no doubt about that. No doubt. But whenever he's talking about the double toroid, I've been saying this shit for a while now. I got off the flat Earth train and I started looking in the double toroid, and I'm like, yo, energetically it makes sense. But also, where I was saying that he was agreeing with you in a sense is because you're one that always says flat Earth, it just causes division, and there's it's just to split everybody up and make people fight and stuff like that, which, I mean, you know what? Flat Earth is coming back hard. I'll honestly say,
there's a reason.
Whenever we first started this show, Flat Earth was awesome. Everybody was talking about it, right? And then it took a couple of year dip and people just didn't want to hear about it. And we were doing Flat Earth shows, and whereas the Flat Earth shows of old, they would be some of our most popular shows. And then we started doing a couple more and people were like, dude, I'm fucking tired of it. And now it's starting to become super trendy again.
Because they come across as CrossFitters or vegans. They find ways to interject. Okay, granted, this is a platform to do that, right? This is where we talk about this type of shit. So it is what it is here. But in the real world, okay, just as you're walking along, flat earthers that start the conversation, they come across as that type of person that finds ways to bring up how flat the earth is when no one even asked about it. I worked with a guy like that once upon a time. Now, he was doing it to be a dick. I don't even think he cared if the earth was flat or not. He just randomly would bring it up just because that was his thing. And it pissed people off, and he knew it. He did to get a rise out of people. But I gotta say, dude, even if you have a conversation with a person one-on-one and you start talking about flat versus round earth, they may entertain the idea or they may believe it. They may not. Who knows? But 99% of people go about their daily life not giving any less of a fuck.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
I always say this, the reason why this show was even created was because I would go and start talking about all of the conspiracies. I was hardcore about conspiracies, why the show was created, right? And I would just go and talk to my parents and my friends and coworkers, and they would all just look at me like I'm crazy. Every so often, you'd get one that's oh, that's interesting. I want to learn more. Very often. Or not very often, rather, I mean. And so what's great about this is that it's caused, this open-minded, the guests that we have, and, it's great back and forth. So much so that, like, I don't even talk about conspiracies in my real life unless I'm asked about them. I don't bring it up. Like, I'm just like, look, it's all out there. If you don't know about it now, then, I mean, and not to say that all conspiracy theorists believe in the same thing or anything, but, I got to say, I get a little tickle in the pickle whenever somebody comes up to me and says, hey, what do you think about flat earth? Like, just out in the real world, like not in podcast realm. Yeah. I'm like, oh, now I can fucking tell you everything. Because you believe in flat earth, you are open-minded to literally anything. Like, there's nothing that you won't take.
No doubt. Dude, I literally spent almost all of my shift today when I was in the shop talking conspiracies because, like, 3 different people would ask me the randomest shit. We went on flat earth. We went on Anunnaki. We went on how they can control the weather, which, by the way, as that gets brought up, which I didn't even mean to, but while we're on it, did y'all hear about the flooding happening in Qatar right now because they overseeded the clouds and caused way too much rain?
Yeah.
So people tell me they can't control the weather. My ass, dude.
Well, they openly admit that they're cloud seeding, but what they're doing,
people still don't believe it.
Well,
people still deny that it's real.
Right, but what they're doing is that I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The reason why is that the indoctrination is so good and so strong that the way I look at it is that we have so many different religions on Earth. So we have the religion of veganism. Whereas there are some vegans that literally will not date you because you're not a vegan, right?
See, there's a difference between just being a vegan for your own personal beliefs and being a vegan and making it everyone else's problem. I hear you 100%, dog.
Then there's some people that are flat earthers to the point where they would not even want to be your friend because they think you're dumb, right? So my point is that the indoctrination and the separation is so well thought out and so well done that you can literally show people evidence. You can show people in the books. You can show people video evidence. You can actually do an experiment to prove something is correct. People will not believe it. And I will give you a very good example. I knew a girl once, and she is a Muslim. Well, she was a Muslim when I met her. And I showed her information. And she said to me, Todd, I don't care. Listen to this. This is mad. I don't care if it is true. It is fact. It is written in a book. It can't be denied, or there's evidence to support it. If it will take me away from a religion, I don't want to know. Yeah. Can you imagine? She literally said, I don't care if it is true. I do not want to know if it's going to take me away from my religion. Now, that's an extreme point of view to take, but look at vegans, people that believe in flat earth, the people that believe that government is their friend, the people that believed in the pandemic. Hey, because you didn't want to go inject yourself with these weird substances that no one knows what is in them, you were called crazy and you were thought of as be a very bad person, and they wanted to separate. So the whole idea and the plan of the Anunnaki through their bloodlines, the elite here on Earth, is to sow division, because a house that is divided shall surely fall. And what they know is that they take the higher spiritual truths, twist them, and then put them into our consciousness to cause us to fight amongst one another so that we do the work for them. Because when you look at the text, they don't fight wars against themselves. No, they get us to fight the wars for them. And we're the ones fighting against each other on behalf of them. They don't actually fight, you know. You know what I mean? They sit back in armchairs and just watch us, because they all agree that they want to make us slaves. They just have different viewpoints on how to do it. And sometimes they work with each other to get a common goal. And then other times they fight against each other through their bloodlines, through their cults, through their religions.
It's big corporations, dude. That's really what they are. I mean, they look at us as literal peasants, dude. I'm telling you, like, some crazy shit. They literally look at us as lesser because we're not billionaires and trillionaires. Like, imagine, like, you're all stoked, you feel like you're doing good in your life. Maybe you came from, a poor childhood or whatever, and then you eventually get up to where you're making $100,000 a year. That's a big deal for most people. $100,000 a year, that's great money, right? These people are just like, you fucking peasant. You're only making $100,000 a year. They look at us all like we're just, ants. Like they can just step on us at any given time because they know that they're the controllers. They're the ones that are ruling the world, that are setting the board, that are rigging it and tilting it in their favor. So understandably so, but it is crazy that, you know, by you getting into that, that's what turned you into this you know, thirst for, you know, spiritual understanding and knowledge, because I feel like a lot of people do. Like, you know, our boy Sam Tripoli, he always says, he's like, yo, like as soon as you get into conspiracy, it opens the door to spirituality. It's like it goes hand in hand.
No doubt.
It is mad because I never, when I was looking at all this information, thought that I'd be doing podcasts, 2, speaking to large groups of people, and 3, being someone that, how should I say, I don't want to say I'm a thought leader, but I have alternative thought to the narrative that they tell us that is in the public realm, right? But like that guy Sam said, it's true. Well, from the time you start to realize, because I started from an economic point where precious metals, cryptocurrency, the economy is rigged, the money is fake. And then when you start to delve down, you realize, well, hey, money actually is known as Babylonian magic. Money was created in Babylon under the guise of Marduk or Bel Marduk, Bel meaning Lord. So the word Lord in the Bible, there are many gods in the Bible that people don't know. So Lord is a title, right? So Bel Marduk, Lord Marduk, he was the god that created money, right?
Baal as in B-A-A-L.
A-L, yeah, Baal, Beelzebub. And this is why the Bible is called Bible by Baal, by Baal, Bible. It was
that's a bit of a stretch, don't you think?
Oh shit!
No, not really, because there's
no by Baal, it's by bull.
But Baal is also the bull. He is the golden calf. So how you understand these higher things is that signs and symbols are what rule the world. These Anunnaki gods took symbols. Baal, Marduk, Amun-Ra, he is known as the bull. So this is why when Moses,
Amun-Ra?
Yep,
he was the sun.
Hold on, I'll get to that. I'll get to that. So just let me show you how I understand it. So when Moses went to Mount Sinai to meet God, it says that God arrived in a pillar of fire and left in a pillar of smoke, right? That is basically a spaceship. The spaceship landed and left, right?
Okay.
Then when he came down with the tablets, what was the Jews doing? They were worshiping a golden calf.
Yeah.
Marduk's sign is a calf. So what it is now is that these Anunnaki gods try to infiltrate each other's cults, aka religions. So this is where now you have infiltration into each religion. So basically now they have a different set of Jews, which are the Talmudic Jews. So the main Jews, the Orthodox Jews, they are
well, they were the Hebrews at that time. They weren't called Jews till way later. They weren't even Israelites at that time.
That is true.
Yeah.
They used to worship Enlil. So Enlil was Lord of Command or Lord of Air. His sign is the eagle. So most of the warring countries on earth are Enlilites. So look at the flags and the crests of a lot of these very warring countries. United States has an eagle. Russia, on their crest, a double-headed eagle. Countries like Azerbaijan, Egypt, you know what I mean? I could go on and on. There are many countries that have eagle. That's eagle consciousness. Very warring. That is Enlil. Enlil is also Yahweh, Jehovah, right? Because you look at the attributes and you look at the signs. Marduk now, the Talmudic Jews are actually Marduk followers, right? Because he infiltrated. Because Judaism, as it is, they take their birth, their genesis from in Babylon. Who was the god in Babylon? It was Marduk, right? So also we know that Marduk, he loves child sacrifice. He loves pedophilia and he loves abortion, right? Even in Mesoamerica, the Aztecs were the most bloodthirsty out of the tribes. And their god was called, he was the sun god, right? So I'm getting to Amun-Ra. Huatztupotl, he was the sun god, and he demanded blood sacrifice. Amun-Ra, the exact same thing. He demanded blood sacrifice. So what happened is that he was known as Amun-Ra or Ra, and Amun is the sun god. And what it is now is that they mixed the two names together because Ra used to be the one that used to be in the boat. So when he would be in his boat that would basically supposedly carry the sun from the time it comes up to when it sets, right? And he was actually Amun-Ra. I mean, Marduk. We know it from the attributes. So now we know then that the bull is him, and Moloch was another god. He demanded child sacrifice. He demanded pedophilia. He demanded all these things. This is why in the Talmud, I can actually tell you. Well,
they were called the Canaanites, were the ones that worshipped that god specifically, and they were the ones that inhabited the Holy Land. Once the Hebrews got to their land, they came back and said there was a land of giants, and they're slaughtering their own children, and they're worshiping these gods. They were actually the Canaanites. They were a land of giants, allegedly, if you believe the texts, which would have been the offspring of the Nephilimic deities, and their god, Moloch, was who they were sacrificing their own children to.
And what was Moloch's symbol on the top? It was the horns of a bull.
Yep. But it was more of a head of a jackal, if I'm not mistaken. It kind of looked like Anubis.
Both. He had horns as well.
Now, I want to ask you this while we're on the topic of Amun-Ra, and you also brought up Thoth earlier. And as we were talking about ancient Sumerian, you're bringing up a lot of historical references. I wanted to ask your 2 cents on this. So, Thoth being from Atlantis, I have been led to believe is a very recent adaptation. All hieroglyphs that we can find any record of say that he was spoken into existence from the mouth of Ra, or Ra was his father in some way, shape, or form. He is not a byproduct of any type of fornication. He was spoken into existence or in the wind of some type, but all Egyptology, all Egyptian religion says that Thoth came from Ra. Now, we hear that Thoth, the Atlantean, and all these things. Where do you, because you do seem to have a historical basis too, where are you at with all of this, or how did this play out?
So basically, you have to look at the history and the politics. Thoth and Marduk were actually at war. Thoth was a priest king in Egypt for 16,000 years. And what happened is that he and Marduk went to war. Thoth lost, and Thoth, Enki, his father, who was also known as Ptah. Ptah actually means Enki in actual Egyptian, right? So this is how we are able to make some of the connections as well. Enki told Thoth to leave Cam and go and set up in another place, and where he went was Mesopotamia. So what happened is that Marduk, he caused some of the text to be rewritten to put him to be the God supreme. We know that because in the Enuma Elish, there are 2 versions. One is the Chaldean and one is the Babylonian. The Babylonian one takes the story from the Chaldean, and where it was Enlil, who was the god, quotation marks, that went to war with Tiamat, he changed the name from Enlil to himself, Marduk. He did the exact same thing for some of these Egyptian scriptures, because it was under his guise that what was his name? No, I can't remember right now. But the Akhenaten, that's it. Akhenaten, he was the one that ended up causing all the deformation of the faces on the statues. So where they have all where they defaced them, it was because of Amun-Ra Marduk that told Akhenaten to do that, right? Because he was trying to bring in monotheism into the Egyptian pantheon, where he would have been the main god that everyone worshipped, right?
But that only went down for one pharaoh. Amun-Ra worship as a sole monotheistic religion famously only happened at one point, and then as soon as he died, they went back to the old ways.
Yes, but the thing is that he still, don't forget, they infiltrate each other's cult and religion through the back door. So what I'm saying is that none of the things are actually pure. Just like he actually wrote in the Egyptian text that every time you pray, after you pray, you say Amun. right? This is
Right,
where
right.
you get amen from. So this is why Amun-Ra infiltrated the religion through the back door, so that every time you're saying a prayer, you're praying to quotation marks God, because the God that people are praying to really isn't the God they think he is. He still gets some sort of veneration, because what it looks like is that somehow they feed off of energy. It's almost like they're energy vampires. This is really what it looks like to me. And while we need food to live, for some reason, their food like is energy. This is why we have movies like The Matrix that show us exactly what we live in, where we're just batteries, we're just energy. But because you can't actually see energy, it's hard for people to conceptualize that these Anunnaki gods are siphoning off our energy. Because, for example, all the wars that are on Earth are really blood sacrifices. So what that means is that some Anunnaki god is getting some sort of worship, some sort of energetic strengthening because of that. So they feed off energy. This is why there's abortions, there's killings, there's so much strife, there's so much hardship on Earth, because all that negative energy is what feeds them. It seems like they're addicted to negative energy, right? So this is why there's always something going on bad on Earth, right?
I mean, it makes sense too, because I mean, just thinking outside of the box here, I'm not sure if this is how it works, but I mean, if you hear like a lot of the alien stories, people who are visited or abducted, you know, they always say that most of these aliens, they don't need to eat, they don't need to drink. I mean, they don't need their sex organs or anything like that. It's like, well, how are you getting energy to live then? You know what I mean? Like if you're existing in some other dimension and you're siphoning energy from us, possibly, then is that where you'd be getting the energy? Because if you really think about it, I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to get too much into like evolution or anything like that. But like, if you think about it, like we get most of our energy from other animals, right? By consuming them.
Other life, let's say that, because like vegetable is still life.
Other life.
In a form. So.
Good call. Yeah, from other life. So who's to say that they wouldn't then be feeding off of us? I mean, because for the longest time, we thought we were at the top of the pyramid. And supposedly this is why, you know, so many people don't want to, you know, let that information out as far as the aliens and all of the nonstop traffic that's going on up in the sky that nobody has any clue about where it's coming from. It's like maybe they do know and they don't want to tell us because they know that we'll all shit our pants whenever we find out, yo, we ain't at the fucking top of the pyramid anymore. Literally.
But the funny thing, right, is that the ancients all knew about extraterrestrials. So the pyramid in Cambodia, the biggest pyramid, Anark, I think it's called Anark. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Anwar.
That's
so
one,
basically, when you talk to the locals, the actual people from that area, they tell you that the gods built it. And they say that the gods built it in days. So
right.
They automatically knew. You have tribes like the Hopi and the Navajo that they say that they were saved by the gods and they were the sky gods, extraterrestrials. You have the Aborigine in Australia who say that their gods came from the Pleiades. So you have the Dogon tribe in West Africa, Mali. They say that their gods are called the Nomo and that they were serpent gods and that they come from Sirius, right? So we have like 4 different sets of indigenous people saying that extraterrestrials are real. Extraterrestrials seeded them on Earth, sheltered them when they had a flood. So where is us in our modern incarnation are thinking, oh, they can't be aliens. Extraterrestrials aren't real. It's all BS. When the ancients knew. And if you just look at the construction like we were talking about earlier, we don't have the technology to have those razor sharp edges on these lines. Even look at in Lebanon, there's a megalith where it's still in the stone, where it is like this massive long ass it looks like if it was like to be like a pillar for a wall or something that's cut out. And
it is. We talked about this, John. It's the largest. We can tell it's a cut stone, but that's pretty much all. And it is the largest cut stone on Earth. There's no way. And we know it was like from one massive piece, this long, like rectangle piece. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
That is incredible.
Yeah, Graham Hancock actually talks about a lot of this too. I love that guy. But yeah, I'm there's definitely something going on. And if you really think about it, like just to put it into absolute layman terms, not that I'm any kind of expert anyway, but like imagine this. So all the things that are going on in the sky that people are literally videoing just about every day in multiple spots around the world. Like I have an app, it tells me every time there's a sighting in my area, just in like a 10-mile radius of where I live, I literally get a new one every day. And so this stuff is always happening. And, you know, we've all seen the videos. They go super fast. They turn on a dime. They go into the water. They come out from the sky. And it's like, you know, they'll be right here in the sky and then poof, they're over here. It's like they're bending space time in some kind of way. And if you really apply that to what maybe we all traditionally called God or angels or some beings from the heavens, I mean, wouldn't you, like, if you were a caveman and you saw this shit going on up in the sky, like, wouldn't you say that might be God, that might be angels, that might be, like, nobody was talking about like, oh, I think it's a being from another dimension back then. Nobody was talking like that. You know what I'm saying? So this is probably, I mean, this makes the most sense to me, dude. Realistically,
you bring up an interesting point, Jonathan, and I wanted to hear what both of y'all's thought was on this. So you're saying like a caveman. I know you were just throwing out a random contrived example. I get that. But let me ask you both. We believe that these Anunnaki figure, these extraterrestrial or interdimensional, who knows, whatever they may be, we believe that they walked the earth the same time as the cavemen, or the same time as like when we were no longer like Neanderthal stage, we were like thinking man that was doing our own thing. Were we like Bronze Age? Were we like hunter gatherer? Where do y'all think about when they came in?
Well, I think it really gets into like the old theory about the Anunnaki put us here for us to mine gold. I mean, but,
okay, so you're saying
what
that they
level,
put us here. It's not when did they get here, it's when did they put us here.
I mean, dude, we're talking about literally like maybe these are the beings that actually created us. You know what I mean?
That's why I'm asking these questions.
I don't know if that means as a caveman, maybe we started out as a caveman and then worked our way up. I don't know. I don't trust all that evolution shit. But like, I don't know. There's something.
A lot of this, right? We're talking about like lost technology, right? Ancient civilizations that may have had like advanced technology or alien, extraterrestrial, Anunnaki technology, Pleiadian, whatever, pick your flavor. But we don't have any kind of archaeological record to show like that there was crazy technology and hunter-gatherer civilizations happening at the same time. There's like innovation. There's like little stuff you would expect, but there seems to be like a massive push, and then like it kind of plateaus for a bit, and a massive push, and it kind of plateaus for a bit. So, and I'm not trying to throw a wrench in gears. I want to genuinely ask this question to hear where do y'all think all this ties in? When did they interject into giving humans technology? When did they say, fuck it, y'all are going to beat your heads against a wall for a couple centuries, then we'll hook you up again? Like, how and when did this all play out?
Well, first off, there are still hunter-gatherers to this day.
Okay, fine. I mean, like the vast majority of humanity doing hunter-gatherer caveman things, living in like huts before like homes were built and civilizations and agriculture when we're at that stage. Or do y'all think that they kind of gave humans agriculture and got them out of the caves? So like, explain to me the order of precedence on this one. Because
that's the story.
Genuinely asking.
So what it appears to be is that when they came here 450,000 years ago, there already was an existing hominid species on Earth. It used to walk on its hind legs, and it had some sort of intelligence, but it didn't have like super intelligence like we would have, right? Because in the Atlantis and the Enuma Elish, Enki says that there is a primitive species existing that we can mix our essence with to create a worker class, basically slaves. So
in their image?
In their image, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at, there are two tablets. One is called the Myth of Adapa. And in the Myth of Adapa, it says that Enki says that he created Adapa. He says, I created you to be one of us. So Adapa was really an Anunnaki, if you look at the text correctly.
This is a Sumerian tablet we're talking about?
Yeah, it's called the Myth of Adapa.
Gotcha.
And basically he's saying, when you read it, I created you to be one of us and even better. So basically, what it was now is that Adapa, which really Adapa means first man, or the Adama, first man. It wasn't just one person, it was a group of people. So one of the things that we get bogged down in the Bible, where we think of Adam and Eve maybe just being one person, one man and one woman, but it needs a group of men and a group of women.
For the record, as a Christian, I also can say that like people really need to read the book. Adam and Eve were not the first human beings created per the text. God created mankind, and then after the 7 days, he separately made them. The reason being, if we are to believe that story, is because their descendants would become Noah, whose descendants would become Moses, whose descendants would become David, whose descendants would be Mary. But that's a story for another time. So
don't forget when Cain killed Abel, what did God tell Cain? He says, if I leave the Garden of Eden, then they would kill me. Who's they? They means people. That there were other people that existed at the same time. So
people lose their minds on that too. Like, well, how did Adam and Eve's sons have children? Well, did God create other women? No, dude, he created a whole race of humanity before Adam and Eve. That's a whole. Again, people need to read the fucking book anyway.
It's pretty crazy whenever you start thinking about it, though. That essentially, if you're looking at the story of the Bible, that there already were humans here, and then God created Adam and Eve and that whole line. Is that to say that literally he kind of made like some kind of trace paper kind of shit to where that God's created people, Adam and Eve, would look a lot very similar to the people that were already here? Why would he do that?
Well, they would look very similar because they would want to look human, for one, but it doesn't matter because everybody on Earth at that time, their descendants get wiped out in the flood. So like that's completely irrelevant.
No, but what I'm saying is, if you're God, you're the Almighty, and you want to come in, you see that there's people already here on Earth, you put them here, and then you say, all right, well, now I'm going to create Adam and Eve because, first batch, they were cooked a little too long or whatever, who knows, right? And
the reason being their descendants would become God's people. If according to the book and all of these things, if you believe in this sort of thing, their descendants would become the Hebrews.
Right, but why not make some kind of distinct difference between how the people would look? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not sure. Maybe the people before Adam and Eve look different.
Not a racist.
No, I'm not. No, it's not a race thing.
Be a bit schizophrenic because he kind of contradicts himself. Because, like, to get back to the question you asked, so when they made in the myth of Adapa, right? He was created perfect. He was created to be better than them. Then we also look at the 8 immortal kings in the Sumerian kings list that I spoke about earlier. We had some reigning for 43,200 years, 28,800 years. So that set of humans will be Homo sapien, and they were of much more pure Anunnaki DNA, right? So this is why they could have such long lifespans. So after the last king that lived, there was the flood. And then after that, everything was from Kish downwards, where all the kings were ruling for the maximum 1,500 years. So that part seems to be coinciding a lot to where the Bible is, where Methuselah, who was the oldest person in the Bible, lived for 982 years. So he was less of Anunnaki DNA. We also know from the Sumerian tablets that Enki did genetic modifications on us. They fused chromosome 2 because we have 48 strand DNA in 2 pairs, so they're 24. And then we have 46 now, which is 23. Now, we know this because science has confirmed now that the genetic modification, where the fusion of chromosome 2 and the capping of our telomeres is something that was done genetically. It was not natural. Science has actually showed that, and they're saying that this mutation, as they call it, occurred about 200,000 years ago. Now, if we look at the tablets talk about time of 450,000 years ago, we know that these 8 immortal kings ruled for 241,200 years. It gives us circa 210,000 years, which is roughly where science is telling us that the DNA manipulation occurred, right? There's also something inside of us called a worship gene that they also put into us, right? And this is why humans have this predisposal to where we see someone that's greater than us, that we quotation marks worship them. Look at our attitude to movie stars and celebrities. There's some bit of unknowing cult worship and worshiping of them, right? Look at someone like Taylor Swift, 182 million fans on Instagram. Her fans love her, right? Okay. But look at how they behave with her, how when they see her, they would freak out, they would shit. All of these is like reverence. They don't even realize in it, right? So they're actually worshiping these people, which is the exact same thing that happened in antiquity. Have you ever heard of cargo cults?
Yes.
Good. Cargo cults confirm exactly this point. So when the United States Army went to some of the Pacific Islands during World War II and they landed, they gave them cans of Spam and they gave them other things like,
supplies.
Other supplies. Yeah, trinkets. After the United States Army left, these cargo cults started worshiping the Marines, building effigies of like planes and,
Dude, they built whole runways and radars out of bamboo to try to mock runways to draw them in. They have a full worship of these figures that flew in on a metal bird from the sky and gave them just this bounty of food and this whole thing. So yeah, you're completely correct.
It's a very
when left to their
interesting
own
point.
devices, when they see some wild shit they can't explain, they'll either run in fear or they'll fall on their face and worship. I hear you.
Todd, I want to know, dude, are you big, do you watch Marvel movies?
Sometimes.
Okay. If you haven't seen this movie, I want to recommend it to you. It's called The Eternals. Have you ever seen this?
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. So fucking good. But it kind of, it might be what we're talking about right here. Like in a cartoony comic book type of way. It's very similar, dude. You're talking about these advanced beings and they're coming down and they're giving, the earthlings whatever kind of technology to be able to advance. You don't want to give them too much because then they'll kill themselves. You don't want to give them too little because then they won't evolve to their maximum potential. And there's like a whole math and science to it, right? And dude, it kind of seems like that's what's going on literally to this day.
This is why I tell people that they teach us the lies in school and teach us the truth in the movies. Right? Because school is just a public indoctrination camp that creates a mindless drone who leaves school with zero life skills, zero skills to do anything, don't even know how to attend an interview, don't even know the difference between credit and debit, don't even know how to balance a checkbook, don't even know how to freaking cook, don't even know how to be an adult, So
that's why it's on us, dude. I'll say this much. My kids, they have a long way to go, but they are pretty self-sufficient because I have forced them to be. Because if we don't teach them, who will?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So getting back to what you were saying with the cargo cults, this is why we human beings seem to have this predisposition to worship or adore people that are greater than us. So this is why it was very easy for these Anunnaki gods to impose their will, or what should I say, trick the people at that time that they're really gods, right? They may be probably, let's say, okay, they came here according to their tablets 450,000 years ago. So that means that for them to have been able to travel from one planet to the next, let's say, this is supposition, we don't know, but let's give a wrong number of saying that they're a million years advanced than us. A million years, right? Okay. So if they were a million years advanced when they came here, then 450,000 years have passed. So they're 1.45 million years more advanced than us. Well, it means then that when they come again, and all these religious texts are saying that God will come back, right, in some form, well, everyone's going to worship them, because they're just going to be like, oh my gosh, this is God, because we have this predisposed disposition to worship something that's greater than us. This is even found in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. When Thoth went to the land of Cam and he landed his spaceship, he said that when he landed his spaceship, the people of that area tried to attack him. He raised his staff and he ejected a frequency, right? And it stopped them in their tracks. They froze. They literally froze. Then he says, I am Thoth, the son of man, and I am not here to harm you, right? And then he says, I won't harm you. And he released them. And what they did, they dropped to their knees and tried to worship him. He says, no, get up. I'm not your God. You know what I mean? I'm here to help, right? So just even then, where he could have killed them if he wanted to, and they dropped on their knees to worship him. Who's to say that that's not going to happen again? We have some miraculous or fanciful event, whether real, made up, artificial, AI, holograms, whatever. If we have something that is so magnificent and we have a being or beings that come here, I guarantee you many people will drop to their knees and worship. Or, like you said, some will run away out of fear,
No, I can see like a fight or flight response being there, but then once they would see that this obvious divine entity looking thing, I could see, and I'm not even going to say simple man or like early man would be so dumb to fall on their face. No, dude, let's be real. Most people today would fall on their face and worship that.
You know what I find interesting, though, is about how you just said that Thoth got there and they were basically like bowing to him and worshiping him. And he's like, no, like, you don't got to do that. Like, I'm not here for that. But what's interesting is that you kind of see people like that and people on the opposite end like that to this day. You see a lot of these, singers or actors or actresses, whatever, politicians even, they just love getting their ass kissed. Am I right? They're like, oh yeah, I can't dude, this is a major pet peeve of mine. But whenever somebody says, oh yeah, my fans, I'm like, do you know where that fucking term comes from, dude? Like, you're literally like a king sitting at your throne and you have somebody fanning you. That's where that term comes from. So now you're saying that you are greater than your fucking slave help that is cooling you off. And so, like, whenever people say, oh, my fans, no, that's why we, on this show, we never even say cult leaders. We're just cult members. That's it.
We all members up in her, dude. Ain't nobody leading nothing.
Right. And so, it's interesting whenever you got, gods of all these different religions and cults and everything, when they're all like, worship me and I'll save you. Like, kiss my feet, get down on your knees, pray, bow your head. It's like, like that kind of rubs me the wrong way if there was already, and if this story is even true, we don't know. I mean, hey, we don't know about Maurice Dorial. We already talked about him before, but it's like, if this is an actual thing, I would imagine that a god of love would not be saying, get on your knees, peasant, and fucking pray to me.
But then my next question is, if Thoth didn't want to be worshipped and he told them get up and he was here to help them and all of that, then why did he allow himself to be added to their pantheon as a god, and not just any god, a very important god to their afterlife?
People, and bro, that's what it sounds like.
Is that what it is? Is like they took the story and they just kind of made up their own myths to it? Was it?
It looks that this is quite possible. Exactly what you're saying, because there's no evidence that Thoth actually demanded worship, or he tried to get people to worship. He always seemed to be like a leader. When I say leader, to say, hey, do this, do that. And I've got a fun fact for you. So when Thoth says that he's the son of man, right? There's another character that actually says that he's the son of man. And the reason for that...
I'm sorry, Scientology, don't sue us.
And
anyway,
the reason for that is that when Yeshua went to Egypt, right, and we know he went to Egypt because the Coptic church has a place where there's a shrine, and there's a church built on top of the shrine where it says that this is where Yeshua went. And he went to learn in the mystery schools that Thoth set up. So we can say that Thoth is one of the teachers of the character called Yeshua or Yehoshua, who became the Christ. He also went to Tibet. We know that because the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which actually means the book of going by night and day, I think from memory, the Chassis real translation, is written in Aramaic. Aramaic is the language that Christ spoke. And we actually had a Dalai Lama recently confirm that, yes, this story is true, right?
Oh, hold on. Just because their book was written in Aramaic doesn't mean that Jesus wrote it. I mean, there was
no. I'm not instigating that.
Jesus.
I'm not instigating that. What I'm showing is the age of the information, because Aramaic is a very old language, right? Because
you're saying that that book dates back to the time at which he lived. So you're saying like the information was traversing the continent.
Yeah. Because if it's written in Aramaic only existed at that time, because we know that Aramaic died out very quickly after that, right? So he went to Tibet. He also went to India. So he went to learn energy healing and Reiki in Tibet, and he also went to learn things about like the Kundalini and the yoga and all that kind of stuff that the Hindus are masters of, right?
Dude, I always try and say this, like, you know, for the most literal popular guy in history, there's a lot of missing years where literally nothing is documented, right?
Yeah, because when you even read the Nag Hammadi, one of the disciples asked the Christ, he says, why do you look at Mary the way you do, right? He says, just look at her, right? He said, it says, why do you always kiss her on her face? Christ replied, just look at her. Now, there's other text that says that Mary Magdalene was actually his wife, and they actually had children. So this is where the whole Da Vinci bloodline, Merovingi, where the book is written about, where they escaped to France, Merovingian bloodline. They went to France, and that bloodline is protected because he had children. So this is why a lot of information about Yehoshua is taken out, because what we have is the worship of the man Jesus, instead of realizing that, first thing first, the word Jesus is actually a construct. It actually took about 1,600 years to do, because that word never ever existed in Hebrew, because it was actually called Yehoshua. So we know that basically there was a 4-step process that was taken to erase the official or orthodox Hebrew Yehusha or Yehoshua, and it took nearly 1,600 years. So in Hebrew or Aramaic, it was W, capital Y, capital H, capital W, apostrophe, Shua. So what happened is that the first step is that they removed the HW. So it just became Yeshua. So then now in the next stage in Hebrew Aramaic, it was transliterated into Greek to be Eseus. Then the third step was that the Greek was transliterated into Latin, which was Jesus. And we know that because the King James Bible, which is in 1611, actually has that spelling of Eseus. So the Latin was then transliterated into Jesus. So fun fact for you, Eseus actually means hail Zeus, because Zeus was the main god in Greece.
How interesting that even after all those different translations and iterations, demons still have to flee in the name of Jesus as well as Yeshua. And all of those translations pretty much still shake out to the same thing as far as the side of good and evil. That's fascinating.
Well, the thing is that the word Jesus is actually a construct. It actually is made up. That was not his real name. That's the point I'm trying to make.
No, I fully, yeah.
So when people say there's power in the word Jesus came out of Eseus, which means hail Zeus. And even when you listen to it in Spanish.
That's because in Greek, God, the word that they would use for that, or top tier dude, would be Zeus. So whenever you're trying to translate it, they didn't have a word for only begotten son of God or savior or any of these things. They had a word for top tier God. So that's kind of what they rolled with.
So
and that's why it was transliterated in that way.
They called more than one person Zeus?
No, I'm saying whenever they were trying to translate the name here, right? Because like you said, they broke it down per the syllables and they did it this way.
But don't forget that Greek was one of the languages that the Bible is written. And what they did is that they imposed some of their paganistic ways into the Christian religion. And one of the ways to do that, because there's no link between, how should I say, they transliterated it, alliterated into the language, not translated it. They just changed the way it was spelt to suit the narrative because Zeus was the top guy. So if you're going to have a further person in another religion that you're going to worship, you have to have veneration of the old gods. And Zeus was the top dog who was really Enlil in Greece. Right? That's the point I'm trying to make.
Wow. Okay, so
but that's also the point that I'm trying to make. Whenever they're trying to transliterate it and change the words a bit, they didn't have a word for this. So you're saying that there's no way that
they literally just injected Zeus into the religion in some form. Because remember what I said, they always try to hijack each other's religion in some form or fashion to basically bleed off some of the energy because they're energy vampires. So what they do is they come in through the back door in some form or fashion, just like how Amun-Ra, Marduk, he said, say amen, so he could get some of the energy. That's the same thing that they did from the Greeks. Because how can you go from Yeshua to Iseus?
I would argue that if you were to go letter for letter, it would come out with a different word that sounds different because the Greek alphabet has different sounds than the Hebrew alphabet. So if you were to take Yeshua and put it one-to-one comparison to ancient Greek, it would come out Iseus. I don't know. I'm not a philosopher of either of these languages, but that makes sense to me.
It was just inserted because we have some tablets as well that talk about Iseus, which is veneration of Zeus, right? So because they were some of the keepers of this ancient knowledge, because the Greeks actually have Anunnaki ties, because Poseidon was Enki, Zeus was Enlil, right?
Wait, so Poseidon was Enki?
Yes, because he's the god of water. Because Enki was the master of water. Because if you look at him in the Sumerian tablets, he always has water or a fish.
With symbol. You, yes. Enki, the fish god. All right, I'm with you now.
Right. So the thing is, one of the tricks to understand and to decrypt this information is you look at the signs and the symbols, because signs and symbols are what rule the world. So the word Zeus was literally just put in, right? So that Zeus could get some of the veneration, right? In some form or fashion. Because what they did is that they created a straw man, a caricature of the actual person, Yeshua or Yehoshua, who became the Christ. Because if you think about it, most people don't even use the word Christ. They always use the word Jesus. Because that's been drummed into our subconscious to always use Jesus. Because even if you listen to it in Spanish, Jesus, Jesus, Hail Zeus. So, you have to understand, when you understand languages and how they play very well on words, right? So this is why you then have Jesus, right? So to clarify, the consonant form of J was not known in the 14th century. Therefore, both J and I used the Y sound, as in the word yes. So in Greek, Iseus will be pronounced Yeseus. And the Latin Isus would be pronounced Jesus. In the 18th century, the letters J and I were split into a consonant and a vowel, and J was adopted as the consonant letter. Now, since this new consonant J was closer to the sound of the modern Y, the letter J was chosen in the translation to Jesus. Therefore, the character that we call Jesus never existed, and is one of the many lies that they've injected into religion to take us further away from the truth that Yehoshua was an ascended master who became the Christ in order to teach us how to get back to source. Because when you look at how Christ used to speak, he never actually took anything for himself. He always said it is through the Father, or without the Father, I can do nothing. He always basically he was like, I am a nobody, right? I am doing the works on behalf of the Father. So this is what he says, in order to get to the Father, you need to come through me. But what that means is the consciousness that he is, because it is the spiritual office that he held, the ability, because what Christ really means is the anointed one. That's what it means. And you anoint yourself with the prana oil. The prana oil is the life source energy, right? This is what the Hindus talk about a lot, the prana, right? And the allegory for that in the Bible was where you had the story with the women that were told to stock up and fill their lamps with oil, right? For when the night came. And some people heeded and some didn't. So this was
when
just
their husband would come.
This was the allegory of anointing yourself with the oil, the prana oil, stocking up that oil, right? So a lot of some of the things in the Bible are absolutely how it is. Others are absolutely false. Other things are just allegory, and some are a bit of both, right? So
I've never heard of someone anointing themselves with oil. If anything, that's supposed to be something that someone anoints you with. If anything, I would think the person that anoints themselves is kind of full of themselves, but that's per the Christian belief. I don't know how Hindus do it. If that's like a part of their practices, then like good on them. Don't know how that goes down there. But I would also say this. So you're saying that Jesus, or who we in today's modern tongue would refer to by this, the actual dude himself, did walk the earth. And you're both under the belief that the lost years of Jesus, he was learning knowledge from all over the world and all these things. Okay. So here's my question, because I've heard a lot of people come with this, and this isn't me trying to get defensive. I'm genuinely curious. If he had all of this knowledge about all of these different religions and past ways and truth and all of this, why would he preach only the things that he preached? And if that's true, then why are we not just following that? Because if he had all the knowledge, shouldn't we be hanging on his every word?
Well, you got to look at it from this way, dude. The reason why there was these mystery schools back then was because if you were caught practicing any kind of this shit, like you're done. Like you go against what we believe. Look what happened to Jesus, and he wasn't even given much. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm sure like he was given a lot, but imagine the amount of information, the amount of knowledge that he had. If he'd bestowed that upon everybody, like all the information, he probably would have died way sooner than he actually did. And so
no, Rome wasn't known for religious intolerance. At times they did. There were certain Caesars that were like super gung-ho with shit. But I mean, think about this. The Hebrews lived in Judea under the Romans, and they weren't persecuted because of their beliefs. They were persecuted because they were the conquested, right? The Persians were allowed to continue doing Zoroastrianism. The pagans to the north were able to keep their religion. There was only a few examples of people like forced converting.
Why did Jesus die? What was the reason behind that?
Because his people brought him before Pontius Pilate and said, kill him.
Correct.
But why did why? Why did they want to kill him? What was the reason?
Because he was showing their iniquities and they didn't like it.
Basically,
he broke no rules. He broke no law of Moses. He broke no law of Rome. He broke no rule anywhere. And that was confirmed all the way up into his death.
Think about if you're a conquering country, an emperor of sorts, and you got this dude walking around trying to help everybody, trying to save everybody, trying to heal everybody, turning water to wine, taking loaf of bread and turning it into thousands, whatever, right? You got somebody like that, that's going to wreck everything, the foundation that you built. Because now
he wasn't on Rome's radar, dude. He only got on Rome's radar when the Hebrews brought him to them. Like, the Roman guards couldn't give a fuck less about him. They were worried about Roman shit. It was his own people that turned on him. It was his people he was helping, but he came to help everybody. But primarily, he was coming to save his people.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, the Jews were turned all the way against him. It's still to this day, they don't see him as your savior.
Correct.
You see, what it is that Yeshua confirmed some of the laws or some of the prophecies, and others he didn't. One of the lineage that he came from, the things that he did, but one of the main reasons why Jews rejected him is that he did not come to create a kingdom, a physical kingdom on earth, and to rule as a king, right?
Right.
Their Messiah, according to them, is going to come and restore the kingdom and will rule. But that was one of the prophecies. There's a couple other prophecies that he didn't fulfill, but that is one of the main reasons why the Jews rejected him. Also, what he was doing is that he was causing discourse amongst the people of basically, hold on a minute, what this guy is saying could actually be true. And basically, I'm worshiping a false god. Because don't forget, the Matrix was created a long time ago. So to make a long story short, Christ was actually teaching people how to get out of the Matrix, right? And they didn't want that, because don't forget, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they were power hungry. They wanted to have dominion over the people. So what you rightly said is true. The Romans didn't really care about him, but it was the Hebrews, the supposed Jews, that didn't like him, because even though he confirmed some of their prophecies, others he didn't. And they're like, no, the Messiah must confirm all of the prophecies, right?
See, I've never heard of that. I heard that the prophecy was for him to build a new kingdom, but the quote unquote Jews misinterpreted that and took that to mean an earthly kingdom when it meant an heavenly kingdom. So it's not that he didn't fulfill a prophecy. They didn't read the prophecy right. Is allegedly that thought process.
I'm going according to how they're thinking.
I'm with you. Okay.
They're thinking, no, he can't be the Messiah because he did not create a kingdom. He did not come back and rule. But if you just look at the mentality, to rule, it means you are over someone. And if Christ was actually telling people that basically greater things ye shall do, right? Imagine that he's telling people that, look, I am not as great as you think I am, because you're going to do better things than I did in the future, right? So he even then didn't take anything for himself. And what we do know is that Caiaphas, who was the head priest, he said that he was going to create a religion around the death of this man. And he also said, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but he said it basically is like, what it is for one man to cause the religion basically to separate, where we need to sacrifice that person in order to save the religion. So they were afraid of they losing their power, because it's all a power structure. Look at what we live in today. We have governments that are oppressing the people because they don't want to give away some of the power that they've taken. And the people are trying to fight back and say, hey, no, we want our freedom. We want our liberty. It's the exact same thing. Look what's happening in the synagogues. The Jews were selling the actual animals to the people so that they could sacrifice. So they were selling salvation. And
they were making a profit off of salvation. Yeah.
Right. They were selling it. It was for sale, basically, if you think about it, because, hey, I've got some animals over here. Come, so you can do your sacrifice so God can save you. And every week, this coming this way, they were called the money changers, right? Even from way back when. And Christ was like, no, you can't be selling salvation. So he kicked the table over. That's the most aggressive act he ever did.
It wasn't just that they were selling it inside the
temple. Exactly.
The disrespect. Anyway.
Exactly. So, you know what I mean? So he was like, no, but this is not right. So what it was now is that the Sadducees and the Pharisees were controlling the people, right? And basically they had their own control system. And Christ was coming as like the maverick. And he was like, no, this is why he said, I came with the sword, I came to sow division. What that means is to separate the sheep from the goats, to separate the righteous from the unrighteous, to separate those that want to be controlled and those who want to be free, right?
I'll tell you something. You said something earlier, and I have to say, I couldn't agree more with you. You said there's 3 main religions on earth, right? You said that was the religion of money, the religion of the government, and then organized religion. So I've heard this said a different way, as a matter of fact. Either of you familiar with Game of Thrones might know this. When Varys was talking to Tyrion, and he said, so there's a soldier with a sword, and there's 3 men sitting at a table, a high priest, a general, and a king. Each of these 3 men order the soldier to kill the other 2. Which one does the man kill? There is no correct answer to this question, ladies and gentlemen and good cult members. The answer is power lies wherever that man with the sword believes that power lies. If that man believes that that king is the most powerful man in that room, he'll follow him. If he believes the high priest is the most powerful man in that room, if he believes the general is the most powerful man in the room, the point is power is a fucking illusion.
It's perspective,
that you
dude.
allow yourself to participate in willingly or unwillingly.
Bucks.
Yeah, definitely. Jacob, there was something that you said earlier, and I wanted to interject real quick because you made mention that, all right,
if I misspoke, I apologize.
No. It's something that you said before, and I wanted to say something about it. So earlier you said something along the lines of like, all right, well, if Jesus ain't his real name, if that ain't really him, then why do demons flee in the name of Jesus? Well, this is something
it makes sense to me why.
Well,
if you broke down the original to another language, to another language, to another language, the power that resides within that would make the forces of darkness flee, that essence, if you will, that intent, if you will, I believe would still be behind that. If that's where I believe in it.
Right. Well, and to even take it a step farther, like we're talking about an egregore here, right? Like whenever we get into egregore, and I just looked up on Wikipedia, like to be able to better describe it. But basically,
please do, because we bring that word up a lot, and I don't think all of our cult members know what that is. We just like do that so often. Yeah, go ahead. What is an egregore?
It says right here that an egregore is a non-physical entity or thought form that arises from collective thoughts and emotions of a distinct group of individuals. So essentially,
like Misery Loves Company.
No. Like, take for example, let's just throw this out there. For example, that 1,000 years in the future, people will look back and they'll see all of our literature, and somebody will like uncover some kind of fucking hard drive that was in somebody's basement or something like that, and they'll see that the people of 2024 were worshiping the flying spaghetti monster. Okay,
right.
Well, then you'll have like that. Those people will be kind of like us now, where we're like, well, look at what the 2,000, 5,000, 15,000 years, what they were believing, right? And so it kind of helps form our thought. But if you know that 1,000, 2,000 years ago that these people were worshiping a flying spaghetti monster, well, in the back of your mind, then they must like look at all the power that they got. They built skyscrapers, they built casinos, they built churches, like all the technology and the cars on the road. Like obviously, their belief in this God, look what it got them. You know what I mean? And so if they believe
misinformed groupthink.
Not necessarily. It's essentially like if you get enough people to believe in something, it essentially like takes that thought form and crystallizes it. Essentially. Well,
okay, I got you now.
It's not necessarily it's kind of like manifesting, but it's a spiritual manifesting, so to say, that you're not like bringing it into physical form, but you're taking the power and the energy of that thought form and you're using it against evil.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah,
so
I never thought of it like that, but looking at the egregore, where is a non-physical entity or thought form that arises from the collective thoughts and emotions of a distinct group of individuals. So this is why I say that in reality, there's no real actual physical power in the physical word Jesus, because that was not the original name, right? And what it does now is that because we've been told that it is really a thought form. So we have a thought of our head that Jesus is the savior, right? So then the collective thoughts of that and the emotions creates this egregore, which is Jesus. So this is why I was saying that in reality, behind what would be, if we call it the egregore of Jesus, is Zeus, which is Enlil, right? So every time which is Greek pagan worship, right? And the Greeks and the Romans, you know what I mean? They actually have very similar pantheons, but they just have different names, right? Jupiter,
right,
for example, is a different name.
Rome's story starts with Romulus and Remus, who are exiles from Troy, or from Greece, and it's this whole thing. So pretty much Greece is like Rome's mom, whether Rome wanted to acknowledge that or not. They hate that. And like still to this day, if you mention it, historians like scoff, but like, look, it is what it is, man. Look at their literature, look at their architecture, look at their conquesting attitude.
It's absolute copycat.
God pantheon.
Right.
Look at their sentence structure, for fuck's sake. And anyway.
Absolute copycat.
If you think about it, the boats, what it was is that how the Romans were able to defeat the Greeks is that they found one of the boats that was blueprinted on how it was built. And they built their boats exactly the same, improved
the Romans,
on it. And
they would do that,
them.
man. They would adapt. If they thought that this would work better, they would jump on it. They got that one Phoenician ship. That one time it ran aground, they reverse engineered it. Next thing you know, Rome has the largest fleet next to Carthage. It's like, whoa, y'all just got after it, didn't you?
Yeah, basically.
Yes, indeed.
So this is why I tell people that like these are hard to swallow pills, very, very hard to swallow pills. And I had someone recently say to me that it was kind of ironic, but they say that, Todd, but I have been told that ignorance is bliss, and I would actually prefer not to want to know these things because I'd be a lot happier. I said, but the thing is that that's a perception that you have that you'd be happier, because in reality, how can you really truly be happy if you're mentally enslaved, right?
It's like that friend of yours that said that she would never leave her religion, right? You could show her proof and facts and bring her to these archaeological sites and all the stuff. But if it took away from what she would consider her lifestyle, which is what she considers her, like that's a part of who she is, she wanted nothing to do with it, man. And it's like people have free will and everybody is individually on their journey just as much as everyone else. And it's like everybody is free to find their own truth on their own terms. And it gets frustrating, but some people would really rather bury their head in the sand. Some people would really rather bury their head in a book. Some people would like to stare at the stars until the end of time to try to understand it all, man. And there's every kind of shade of gray in between.
Well, what's interesting too is like, I'm okay with people believing literally whatever they want. It has no effect on my life, and your beliefs are not going to sway my beliefs, and it should be that way. Unless you're like, oh, I really like that set of beliefs. I'd like to learn a little bit more. Maybe you start vibing with it, and maybe you convert. That's all right too. But I think that like the reason why so many people, and I'm not pointing out any specific religion, I feel like probably a lot of them, if not all of them, do it. That anytime you start speaking against it, it's like it's anger, it's anguish. I can't look into this, and this is the work of the evil one or whatever, right? And I don't know if that's a good way to go about it. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to say that I got my beliefs and they're not going to change. There's nothing wrong with that. But whenever you start, just saying that this is the devil's work or anything like that, now you're putting that on me. And now you're saying that I'm the one worshiping the devil. And it's like, just like that guy that, who was it that, or I'm not going to say a name, but the person that like said that, oh, you don't know what you're getting into. You're reading the Magician and you don't know that that's actually satanic worship. And I'm like, I read the book. Like I literally read it out loud on the show. Nothing satanic ever came through. Now, you might be able to see some of the symbols.
I'm joking.
You might be able to see some of the symbols and be like, oh, yeah, the pentagram? Oh, you mean the devil? Like I could see that. But never, ever was it ever mentioned that it was any drawing from any god. As a matter of fact, the guy that wrote the book, he made fun of people who believed in God and devil and shit like that. And so it's absolutely not anything what you think. And so this is what I'm trying to say is that just because somebody doesn't believe what you believe doesn't mean they automatically worship the fucking Dark Lord. Like so it's okay.
Let's go there. Todd, chime in on this one, brother. So we were talking about earlier, you said that the Anunnaki, you also brought up Nephilim, and you also brought up these other types of entities. So a lot of different faiths from around the world, all types, see the other entities as some being extraterrestrial, but some see them as demonic or jinn-like or evil or something negative. Some see them as benevolent and good. I'm assuming there's both. You brought up Inky and Toth and like all these things in between. So where do you believe these things are on the spectrum of things?
Well, it appears that you're right. No, the Anunnaki are a collection of beings. They're from Zeta Reticuli, Sirius, Pleiades, Orion, etc. And the thing is that they are from different star systems, which means that they look different. This is why we on Earth have different color skins, because if you think about it, we have to look like them if they came here and they made us. And even all the texts, like from different religions, say that we were made in the image of God, right? But the question I say is, which God, right? You know what I mean? Because all these texts are saying that these extraterrestrial gods made us in this current form. No, are all of them bad? No, all of them are not bad. And the problem is that the religion has, and when I say religion, I mean collectively, has basically said anything that does not follow our narrative is demonic, evil, and is satanic, right? Whether that entity or being or character has positive attributes or not, doesn't matter. According to religion, extraterrestrials don't exist, right? So that means then that if extraterrestrials come here, some people, maybe like the Hindus, might be more open to it because they have.
I'm a Christian gods. And I believe in aliens, and I actually know a lot of Christians that do. We take an excerpt from the Bible to kind of confirm that belief. Actually,
yeah, but you're not getting your priest in church talking about it. You know what I mean?
No.
Like
no. Nobody's doing a sermon on aliens. That's for sure. I feel you. Okay.
And to confirm your point, if you read Ezekiel in his dream actually confirms that extraterrestrials are real, because the thing that the character was in that had 4 wheels that were moving independently, and the way the being was, and the way Ezekiel described it, it was a spaceship. It was an extraterrestrial being, right?
You're talking about that angelic being with the 4 wheels, and there was like 4 of them sitting around. I'm with you.
Yes.
I'm with you.
Yes. This extraterrestrial.
Now,
extraterrestrial means
I'm glad you're saying spaceship. Okay, good. Yes, this is what I want to talk to you next about. Now we're talking extraterrestrial. We're talking extra Earth, if you will. Some people that are of the flat Earth variety have speculated this means that they may be coming from under the ocean or beyond the ice wall. Some people that believe in a globular model believe that this is from other planets. Then there's people in between that believe this means other dimensions or other densities. Todd, where are we at with this, bro?
It's very difficult to say. It could be a combination of all 3, to be honest.
I love this. Let's go.
Because the way, one reason why I say that is that in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth talks about he walks like he is a man but doesn't walk like a man, right? And he talks about how he leaves his body in status, so he has a regeneration chamber, and he has different avatar bodies, right? Now we don't know if they're the same exact avatar body. We don't know, but what he did say is that each avatar body lasts 100 years, and he's done it 1,000 times 100. So he did it. No, he did 100 times 100. So 10,000 years at least. He was able to.
You don't mean like when we see depictions of him as like a baboon, and then we see other depictions of him as like the ibis-headed god. You don't mean that. You're talking about like incarnations.
Yes,
I'm with you. Okay.
Because in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, he tells you how to reincarnate, and the Tibetan Book of the Dead actually tells you how to reincarnate, how to choose your parents, how to choose the time that you're going to reincarnate in, etc., etc. In fact, one of the things is that Christ actually taught reincarnation, but that part was taken out of the Bible because there was a point in time in Christianity where a lot of the early Christians were very happy to be eaten by the lions because they knew that they can't really die and they would just reincarnate again, and that this life would be done and stuff like that. So getting back to your point now, Thoth said that in the Emerald Tablets that when he passed through the halls of Amenti and he went to other realms, right? he said that he saw consciousness, other consciousness, creating worlds from their thoughts, right? So this is in the etheric realm here. So it is quite possible that it could be different dimensions, different densities. It could be possible as well that because some like the Dogons believe that their gods came from the sea because they were fish, right? So they came out of the sea. Then we have other people like the Aborigines in Australia that say that their gods came from the Pleiades, which is another star system, which is a physical planet, right? We didn't know about Ceres, the Pleiades, until recently as well, you know? So it's like,
right.
It could be all three. We don't really know, right? Because what we do know is that extraterrestrial just means not from Earth, right?
Right.
So I think Star Trek is a very good representation of what the other races and beings out there look like, because we know for sure that things that like the Jedi came out of the Egyptian texts, and they were called Jedi, and those were the actual like the priests, the high priests that were in Egypt, and they just changed the spelling slightly. The Jedi, they call them the Jedi warriors. So my point is that we don't know if they're interdimensional, extraterrestrial, like from another planet, from the inner Earth, from the sea. It could be all three. But what we do know is that the Anunnaki are a combination of different races, and some of them could look like felines, some of them could look like dogs, who knows? Some of them could look like us. Well, actually, a lot of them probably look like us, because all the scriptures from the Hindus to even folklore, they say that we're in the image of God. So if the gods are the Anunnaki gods, then who's not to say that we don't look like them? Because one thing is for sure, the Sumerian tablets talk about they used to have sex amongst themselves, they used to drink beer, and they used to have emotions of anger, happiness, sadness, just like us. So they put on their pants one leg at a time. You know what I mean? So I actually would go on a limb here and say that we are actually the aliens. We are not from this earth. So when someone asks me, so Todd, have you ever spoken to an alien? I say, yeah, I'm speaking to one now. You know what I mean? Because
I hear this.
We're not from this planet.
I've heard quite a few conspiratorial truther people go down this particular rabbit hole. Now, my question to you on this one: if humans are not meant to be on this earth, why are we energetically so in tune with everything else on earth when left to our own devices, i.e. Aboriginal tribes, Native Americans, things of that nature?
Wouldn't that essentially be like, you know, we're kind of mixed race at that point? Like maybe our dads are from here, but our moms are from like Venus or some shit?
Is that what it is?
I don't know. I mean, if the beginning, you know, if there already were hominids here and then they interjected their DNA in order to fuse the two together, then it kind of would be just like a interbreeding of races at that point, alien races.
That's exactly what I was going to say, because one of the reasons why is that the existing hominid species, well, we don't know how they're manifested, but let's say that through normal evolution to some point, right? It means
adaptation.
Adaptation. Okay, right. Yeah, that's a fair word.
I know that like evolution and adaptation are like seen as the same thing, but like evolution has such a negative stain on it these days. Adaptation, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that I came from a monkey. You know what I mean?
I don't believe this.
No.
So let's say that this is the hominid species adapted. That means it came from Earth, right? So that means that energetically it will be tuned. So we do know that because of the Schumann resonance, the 7.86 hertz. Now, in the space station, there's no Schumann resonance. And if there's no Schumann resonance in the space station, the astronauts would go mad, literally. They have to pump the Schumann resonance in there. Now, that also confirms that we are from Earth, right? At least that part of us, because I do agree with what you're saying, Jonathan, that we are probably mixed race, you know what I mean, with that species that existed plus the Anunnaki. And if we have that connection, it means then also that we have this in tune frequency with the 432 hertz that the earth emits as well, right? This is why when we hear it, it's very healing, it's very relaxing, because that's another frequency of the earth. So what it is now is that we have our 13th chakra, which is the chakra that the second chakra of the earth, is connected straight to us because we are from them. Because according to the Anunnaki tablets, they blended our DNA with theirs in clay jars. So the clay is actually earth. So this is where you would get the bond with the earth, to create us. So this is why there's a real connection. And for example, when you go and hug trees, it's been known that you can get energy from the tree, right? The animals, they're from the earth as well. When you give love to an animal, even if it's a wild animal. For example, a wild animal could be hurt and you can go and save that animal, and that animal will actually realize, you saved my life, and they would actually become your friend. What is that? Because it's an energetic frequency. So the earth is a living organism that inhabits or is inhabited by other species and other consciousness. So this is where the link is. So I really do think that there is a massive connection between us and the same elements. Because don't forget, when we die, we go back to the earth, right? Our bones remain, but the flesh just goes into the earth, isn't it?
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was my next question to you. Now, per what you have discovered in your findings and all these things, what do you believe happens after we die? Our flesh suit here, this carbon-based life form, we agree it goes into the earth, ashes to ashes and dust to dust, as it were. But what do you personally believe happens to our ethereal self, our soul, if you will?
Well, the soul seems to be the thing that encapsulates all of our feelings and thoughts and emotions. And that soul appears to leave this body. Now, where it goes exactly, the reason why I put it as like a question is that we know for sure that reincarnation is real, because in fact, I have had that confirmed to me because I have connected to a past life, and I connected to it through a psychedelic experience. And this was confirmed to me another time. And I can remember parts of that previous life and what I did and who I was.
Todd, you got to let me give you a past life regression one day, bro.
Indeed.
I would love to do that.
Dude, I would love, like, you are the perfect kind of person that I love doing these kind of sessions on. Because
dude, it's fun as hell, and you would have a fucking time, bro.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I do. I hypnotized Jacob, man. He don't even believe in reincarnation, but he went to a past life, so
it was fun.
What is that to him? I don't know. Maybe it was just like the mind doing what the mind does. Is that how you kind of equate that?
I'm going to be very honest with you, Jonathan. I'm very undecided as to what it was that I experienced. I'm still not 100%, bro.
So you're open-minded?
I'm closed-minded to a couple of options, but I'm open-minded to a lot of options. I'm going to be honest with you. Is it possible that I had a guided dream? Is it possible that this is what happens when my imagination is unleashed and just goes for a walk? Is it possible that there was a little bit of something special going on here, a little something extra that maybe I just can't explain in a conventional way? Look, man, I don't be knowing.
Well, I mean, just take it from this perspective. If it was a dream, how many dreams have you had? Well, first of all, you're not really even a dreamer, but you probably don't.
I don't fucking dream, dude.
You don't dream, but like, let's just say, I mean, they say that typically everybody dreams every night. I'm not sure if that's a fact or not. That might be a myth. I'm not sure. But
I wish.
I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But most people don't remember 99% of their dreams. Like, I couldn't tell you a single dream that I had 5 years ago. Like, that's, I'm not going to remember that, but you remember just about everything from that past life, right?
I can still remember it all right now. The smells, the names, all of it. So to your point, bro, I don't have an explanation. I'm still undecided, but I would say, Todd, you would benefit greatly from having Jonathan do a past life regression on you, brother.
And I will say that it's also a lot more because I'm also a huge kind of person that's into the psychedelics, a psychonaut, if you will. Not as much as a lot of other people that we've had on the show, but I'm definitely...
I was going to say, we've talked some psychonauts, dude. I don't know if we can call you that. I'm not trying to denigrate you. I'm saying we've met some pros.
No. I'm like in middle school and they're like graduated college. You know what I'm saying? Whenever it comes to that. Right.
Yeah. And so, like a C-tier psychonaut. I'm with you.
But that's not to take away from any of it because I've had some profound things that have happened through, DMT and mushrooms. But I will say this, where it's a little bit different is, whenever you have like a mushroom trip or DMT or whatever it is, acid, whatever, it's hard to really get a good grasp of exactly what it is, and sometimes you end up forgetting a lot of it. Me, for example, I had the whole Elohim thing. I don't remember that conversation. I remember how I felt afterward, but I don't remember the questions I asked. I don't remember the questions that were answered. I just remembered how I felt afterward, and I remembered, hearing the whole Elohim thing. So would I remember that more, first off, if I was being hypnotized and not, under some kind of influence? And also, this shit's recorded. Even if you forget it, it's recorded anyway.
And also, you have to be sober to do it. So, like, that's the other thing. It's not like you can write it off so easily as, oh, well, it was ... Oh, well, I had just taken the hit of, like, no, not even a little bit, dude.
Yeah.
I would definitely be up for it because I'll be honest, dude, the confirmation that I got, it was staggering. So, basically, I did a medicine called Bufo alvarius.
The Bufo toad?
Yeah.
DMT, yeah.
Yeah, I've done that several times. Dude, this particular one, this was my first experience with it. It was the second pipe that I had. And I saw the creation of my soul, literally. And then when the shaman came over to me, because what it is now is that the Bufo fills you with so much love. It's unconditional love. And what happens is that because you're not accustomed to having this feeling, this presence of love inside of you, it makes you scared. And that's exactly what happened to me. I started to fight it. And when the shaman came over to work with me to help me through it, I literally uncontrollably started to speak to him in Portuguese. I swear.
Wait, you speak Portuguese?
Yes, I'm fluent in Portuguese, but think about it, right? I was under the Bufo and I just started to speak uncontrollably in Portuguese, right? And then I had the memory and the vision and I saw it. I knew that I was either a conquistador or I was a slave, right? But I knew for a fact 500 years ago, I was a Portuguese in some form or fashion. Right? No.
Aki, hold on. I just got to say, I know a couple of Portuguese words. My wife is Brazilian. So, like, she's taught me a couple of them. I pick up a little bit on the way. One of my favorite Portuguese words to say, it's more fun than saying fuck. And that is, Aki susto. Or, Aki, ai caralho.
Aki susto.
Oh, caralho.
Yeah, caralho. Yeah.
Caralho, yeah.
All right, so does that word translate from Portuguese, or you speak more like a Brazilian Portuguese too, Todd?
No, I speak European Portuguese.
So those words translate well?
Yeah. Okay. Caralho means basically damn it.
Okay.
The thing with that experience, right, dude, I remember it was yesterday. Like, obviously, I was born in Barbados. My mother tongue is English. I cannot explain why I would speak in Portuguese under the influence of Bufo, right? And it came out like I couldn't control it. And I was just talking. And I remember I had visions of my mother as well. And I remember, what I do remember 100%, I was on a boat. So this is why I thought I was either a slave or a conquistador at the time. I wasn't sure. Now, what happened about 2 years ago is that because I don't speak Portuguese every day anymore, I started to listen back to podcasts in Portuguese and YouTube channels just to keep the language fresh in my ear.
No doubt.
And there's this channel on YouTube called Portuguese with Leo. He's from Lisbon. And he has a very fun way of teaching people Portuguese, where he talks about things that like the history of Portugal and the politics, basically speaking in Portuguese language so people can hear different aspects and the culture of Portugal, the language, etc., the history, like how the language evolved, etc., etc., etc. So one episode he had, he talked about a language called Fado, which is actually native to Portugal. And the music described, well, in Portuguese, you call it saudades. Saudades doesn't really translate well to English, but it is like longing for, like nostalgia. It's like this homesick feeling that you have, right? And they were talking about being away from the motherland, Portugal. So anyway, he talked about how it came about and history, etc., etc. And he left a link in the description, and he said that for people that want to hear the music, then you can go and listen to this link. So I listened to the link. As the music started to play, I swear to you on my life, within 30 seconds, I was in complete tears. I was cooking breakfast at the time. I had to turn off the stove and sit down.
What kind of music was this? Was this like melodic? Was it harps? Was it?
It was melodic, but it was the music that triggered the memory, right? This deep memory, dude.
Hearing the language, yeah.
Yep, hearing the language, hearing the music, and I remember singing Fado on the ships, and I know exactly what I was. I was a sailor. I was a marinero, right? So the reason why because I used to spend long time away from home, because I was a sailor, and I don't know if I was transporting slaves or goods or what, but what I do know, I was a sailor. I was on the boat. I used to sing this music. And
so look, it doesn't have to be necessarily negative. The Portuguese Navy was a powerhouse until the Spanish. So like, just saying, you could have just been a very noble merchantman, sailor type. It could have just been a nobleman working his wage.
Dude, it floored me. I had to sit down. I was covered in tears. I was to the point where I was like, wow, it all just like that. It was just like this huge download. And my body started to tremble a little bit like that as well. It was like, wow. Like even talking about it now, again, goosebumps, dude. Right? That's how I know when something is true, because it resonates with you. This is why Christ said that you know something is the truth, because you hear it, you know it's truth. It resonates with you. Same thing. Truth is a frequency. So I had
so
that
you believe
memory.
in reincarnation. The soul absolutely has the ability for reincarnation. Do you believe that the soul ever gets to a good place, bad place type situation, or is it just a rinse and repeat for eternity? Where or how does that fit in with the story of the Anunnaki? That's my other question too. As we're talking about these old ones and these deities and how religions will say that they're demons, in reality they're extraterrestrials and all of these things, how does that play into our soul? Because humans have thrown themselves down and their whole spirituality at the feet of these beings. So what do you believe in your studies happens on that side of things?
That's a very good question. And we can get, but we're on the right show of Cult of Conspiracy, so this can get kind of conspiratorial here. So,
bro, this is the fucking place.
The fucking third eye open, baby.
What it appears like is that the moon is a hologram, and it is a transfer signal device from Saturn. So Saturn seems to be the energy that is controlling our planet, but Saturn is really far away. So the moon is like
this is the first time I've ever hearing this. Where are we getting that Saturn is the power source? Break this down for me, dog.
Well, basically what it is that Saturn also is linked to Kronos, which is also linked to Enlil. And this power
Saturnalia
structure,
worship. I'm with you now. Okay,
Correct.
got you. I'm up to speed.
So this energy seems to have infiltrated Earth, right? But it seems to have infiltrated Earth through the moon. So the moon, from what we can tell it's hollow, and it is probably a Death Star or even a spaceship that has a hologram around it to make it look like it is how it is. But what it appears to be is that the moon is has a soul capturing device in it. So when we leave the physical body, what is supposed to happen, because originally how it appears to have been set up is that you will come to Earth to play. You come to Earth to have all these experiences, do all these fun things, feel what it's like to have a physical experience. And then when you leave the body, you go back to source and you had your soul growth and stuff. But when the Anunnaki came here, it appears that they worship this energy that is emitting from Saturn. Then they put in this soul capturing device in to the moon. So what it is now is the energy comes from Saturn and is beamed into the Earth from the moon. This is why the moon and the Earth are so closely linked, right? And this is one of the reasons why we don't see the other side of the moon. Now, people say that there's aliens on the other side of the moon. Quite possible. What we do know is that the moon is not what they tell us it is, right? Because it's also hollow as well. So it could be a hologram on the front that just have this appearance, and the back could be something else. But anyway, this soul capturing machine, when we leave the body, it captures our soul and recycles it back here on Earth. Because what it is now is that they want a constant feed of energy, which is why the matrix, the move it shows us a bit of it where it could be that our real bodies are in a place. This I don't know, but let's say it could be the moon, because a lot of these stuff in the movies, they actually tell us the truth. Okay. And we're here, but not really here. We're here only in our minds, but our bodies are trapped in another place. But what the information does look like is that when we die, this is why they've put in these three main religions on Earth. And one of the religions is organized religion, which all religions are made from fear. So what this does now is that this primes your consciousness to think in lack and separation and think that you're not good enough. So what happens is that you self-sabotage all the time in your life. When you leave the body, you go and you judge yourself. But because now you've not learned the lessons of life due to all the programming from the system and the matrix, you have to come back here again to keep learning. But what it is now is that they've created it in a way that when we reincarnate, our memories are wiped. So we have to start back from zero all the time. Now, what appears to happen is that they're fractals of our memories that we retain, like how we connect to that past life, but it's just a fractal. It's such a small part. And I was only able to connect to it through a psychedelic ceremony, which means that you have to have something powerful to break through the actual veil of perception and reality in order to get to connect to that fractal, right?
Okay.
So what happens now is that when we die, we reincarnate again, and we have more programming, for very, very little learned lessons of life, come back again, repeat the same thing. Now, what appears to happen is that some of these fractals over many reincarnations get slightly bigger and bigger, but we're still talking of fractal size here. So this is why some people may come back and they may have this calling to do this, or have this talent to play music or whatever, because that little fractal just got big enough that they connected to it. And it's like this hidden calling, this hidden, I know I need to do this and I'm just going to do it. But still, our life lesson learning is so slow and so arduous and so long that the Anunnaki keep us going over and over and over and over and over to suck our energy, because they feed off of us.
So do you believe the Anunnaki control our souls?
I would say yes.
Okay, with you. So do you believe there is a heaven-ish good place or a hell-ish bad place once that cycle is over, and then finally they're like, all right, you know what, you've learned your lesson, you go to the good place, or you know what, you're just not getting the picture, you're going to the bad place? Is there any of that per the Anunnaki story of anything.
Well, wouldn't you technically think that if we're stuck here on a loop and we can't get out, that this might be that hellish place?
Well, this is what I was going to say, because the word hell comes from the word Hades, which actually is the underworld. And what according to the Egyptians was supposed to happen is when you die, you go into the fourth dimension, which is the Hades or the underworld. Although the way I see it is that they call it the underworld, even though 4 is higher than 3, because we're really from 5, the fifth dimension, which is where we get into our God powers. So we actually descended into 3, but because 4 is between 3 and 5, is the underworld in comparison to the 5th, right? So you go through the Hades, the underworld, the fourth dimension, and what's supposed to happen is that you're supposed to judge yourself. So the Egyptians talk about you put your heart on a scale, and you put your heart, and then you put a feather on the net side. And if your heart is lighter than the feather, you've passed the lessons of life. If the heart is heavier, that means you have to come back and do this again.
But it wasn't against yourself. There were 3 judges there to see the scale and weigh.
Yeah, but one of the judges is yourself.
You'd be there present, but the 3 judges were, if I'm not mistaken, Thoth, Amun-Ra, and not Imhotep. What's the one with the Osiris? And if your heart was heavier, then it would be fed to, what was that little half crocodile, half lion dog thing that was like their version of like the ultimate evil? And if your heart was heavier, then like it would eat it, and you would basically fall into the blackness of nothingness. They didn't have a hell, like a place of eternal torment. They basically had that you would be just gone into the darkness of nothing. That was their version of like the bad place.
Who is they? Who are you referring to?
The Egyptians.
Like, oh, this is what the Egyptians believe. So kind of similar to what he's saying then.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm the weighing of the scales and all of that. Yeah. And then even after that, the scales would only know how wide the path would be made. If your heart was heavier than the feather, like you still had a chance, but basically they would make the path to get from here to the good place as thin as a razor. If you lived a good life and your heart was lighter than the feather, then the path would be as wide as a highway and you could walk safely to it. And it was a whole order of precedence. And there was a reason why they mummified bodies the way they did and embalmed them the way they did, because they felt like the body had to be preserved a certain way to make that journey. It's a whole thing. The Egyptian religion is fascinating, dude. It really is.
It very is. It very much is.
So, okay, so you believe that basically we are on a rinse and repeat until we finally get it right, and that the Anunnaki or whoever, maybe the Anunnaki, maybe the Pleiadians, maybe all of them in weird ways, are kind of in control of that loop until they decide. I'm with you. Now, next question. This is, I think, my final one. What do you believe as far as the creation story goes? Now, I'm not necessarily the story, quote unquote, Big Bang or Matrix theory or whatever. Where did this big ball of dirt or flat plane of dirt, not saying one way or another, this toroid, if you will, who or whom or what group of made this per the traditions that the Anunnaki speak on?
Well, according to them, Earth actually came from a larger planet called Tiamat. And according to them, Nibiru, because Nibiru has a elongated rotation around the sun, is also known as the destroyer. So what happens is that every 3,600 years, it comes into close proximity to the Earth. And at this one particular time, Nibiru, this is how they describe it in the Enuma Elish, that it went to war with Tiamat. And Tiamat lost.
The two planets went to war against each other.
Yeah, so basically they collided. And what happened is that Tiamat was destroyed. She was defeated. And we have a smaller planet, which now will be Earth, or at the time it was called Ki. And this is why it's called Enki. He's called Enki because he's Lord of Earth, Lord of Ki. And basically the asteroid belt, what they call the hammer bracelet, was created as a consequence of the collision of the hammer bracelet. That's what they call it, or the Milky Way. You know, with the
asteroid belt.
Asteroid belt. That's it. Sorry, I'm
with you. I don't know the name of it, but I know there's a big famous asteroid belt that they always reference. I know what you mean.
The asteroid belt is what they call the hammer bracelet.
Okay.
So basically, after the two planets collided, the hammer bracelet was formed.
They put up an intergalactic wall. That's essentially what I'm hearing. Hadrian's Wall, Great Wall of China, Trump's Wall. Essentially, the planets put up a space wall of like floating rocks to barricade each other from each other. Okay, tried and true method, gents. Tried and true. All right, I'm with you.
I'm going to build a wall.
Yeah.
And you're going to pay for it.
We are.
According to them, this is how Earth was formed, because Tiamat was an existing planet. Now, what I do... This is what I believe from looking at all the information. Yeah. I think that there's a combination of the Big Bang and we would say God manifesting or divine creation. I think both of them are actually have a symbiotic relationship, because I think both of them.
I agree. Go deeper on this, dog.
Because the way we look at it, and I see it, is that you can't have the chicken without the egg. Right? So people are in one camp where, is the Big Bang. But, let's look at a deep level. It is possible that through a Big Bang event that the whole universe can be created. All right, fine. But it means then that there would have to be some sort of divine entity or divine presence or consciousness, some supernatural something, that through that Big Bang explosion, that all consciousness was created. So it means that consciousness had to exist before, and at the same time, that spark of creation happened at the same time. And like I was saying to Jonathon in the previous show, that what it looks like is that both things, according to Nagamati, they describe it as that when God created the universe, it was created from form and void, which means that there was something and nothing at the same time. But because if there's nothing, there needs to have something to acknowledge that nothingness. Just like if a tree falls in the forest, does it actually really make a sound if no one is there to hear it? So we're going into quantum physics type stuff here, right? So what that would signify then is that if universal consciousness, God, or the creator of all things, he created himself from nothing. But if he's nothing and he created himself, that means he still doesn't exist, because there's nothing to confirm his presence. So the Nagamati say that when he created himself from nothing, he created the universe to create him, because the universe acknowledged his presence, so he became present. So it's just like the tree would actually fall if there's someone to observe it and hear it falling. This is why quantum physics talks about the observed isn't really taking place unless the observer is doing the observing, right?
I like that. Yeah, and I'm with you to a degree. I agree with that. So I only say the Big Bang in like a broad stroke because we can track how the known universe is ever expanding, which would mean that it came from a starting point of some type. So to say Big Bang, I don't actually mean like a kaboom.
That's to our level of understanding, like time, though. Like, because if time truly is a construct, then how do you describe what came first, what came second? But I did see this other theory that I never really heard about until right now. I just looked it up. I was looking to alternative theories to the Big Bang, because outside of religious ideology, nobody really gives an alternative. You never really hear an alternative.
They taught us like 8 different versions in school. Big Bang's the most widely accepted, but there's quite a few out there. Some are quite...
This one right here, it says one alternative theory is the steady state universe. An early rival to the Big Bang theory, steady state universe posits the continuous creation of matter throughout the universe to explain its apparent expansion. This type of universe would be infinite with no beginning or end. And there's something, and I don't know, maybe it's
Think
just
about
because
Minecraft world.
I mean, I could just be excited because it's my first time reading it, but like, you get into like, what the Hindus like to say, like there has never been non-existence. There's only been existence. Like, so, and this is kind of like where you can get into reincarnation. A lot of religions
with cyclical teachings. I'm with you.
Right, like reincarnation, and it's like, all right, well, then you get into the laws of thermodynamics, which, that kind of is getting into this too, that, like, if you're here, then, like, you're not going anywhere because technically energy can't be created nor destroyed, only transferred. And it's like, all right, well, if it can't be created or destroyed, then doesn't that kind of mean that like maybe the universe wasn't created and it can't be destroyed either, but maybe it was transferred, or maybe there just was no beginning and no end? And I like to kind of play around with that theory too, because imagine the idea that this has always forever and will forever be here. Maybe not exactly Earth, maybe not exactly, the certain continents, of course there's panspermia and Pangea and all that other shit. It's like, is it possible that like it's just always been here because there's nothing saying otherwise?
Well, this is why I say that it looks like, this is why Christ said that there's the Alpha and the Omega, where there's the beginning, there's the end. So you can't have one without the other, which is why he said you can't have the chicken without the egg. So I think that the non-existence and the existence actually were existing simultaneously at the same time, because you can't have dark without light. Like, light is only light because it can illuminate darkness. But if there was no darkness to begin with, then light wouldn't be able to exist, right? So I think they have a symbiotic relationship. That's why I said that according to the Nakamati, universal consciousness or God always existed, but there was nothing because he's nothing, but he's also everything at the same time. So he had to create something in order to acknowledge him and acknowledge his presence. And then he created derivatives of himself, like first power, second power, triple power, Barbello, Sophia, and then one of the derivatives would be man. So basically, this is why I say to people that we all are God. All of us are God. We're just a fractal of God, having an individualized experience with the same powers of creation as God, because we are co-creators, because our minds are powerful. We know through work like Joe Dispenza that we can cure ourselves with the mind, because there's something called the placebo effect. There's also called the nocebo effect, which is the complete opposite, where you can make yourself sick by believing that you're going to get sick, right? Like, for example, some people have been told that they're going to have to get chemotherapy for cancer. They're just told that they're going to have to get it. They were told that these are the symptoms that you could get. They don't even get it. And then they freaking get the symptoms of losing weight, losing their hair, vomiting, being sick. And they've not even touched the medication yet, right? So the mind is really powerful, right? So,
oh yeah, dude. Like anytime I get sick or if I get a headache or a migraine or anything like that, my go-to is always Aleve, because it's for some reason, it's the thing that works for me. I don't know why, but I will say that there has to be some truth to what you're saying, or absolute truth to what you're saying, because typically Aleve, Tylenol, any kind of medication that you take, it typically takes a little while to kick in, 15, 20, 30 minutes, depending on who you are or what you just ate or whatever. I swear, dude, literally every time I go and take an Aleve, if I got a major headache or if I'm sick or whatever, I'm talking about within a minute of taking it, I'm feeling better. Now, that ain't the medicine working. It can't be. It hasn't gone through my system yet. It's barely gone down my throat. So there's definitely something to, some kind of something, like the belief of like, okay, I took the medicine that I know is going to make me feel better, so now I'm allowing myself to feel better because that's what I just took, right? Well, that's in essence is just like a mindset, right? Like you're accepting that now you're going to get better. Well, think about it before you took the medicine. Well, I didn't take any medicine, so now I'm not going to get better until I take medicine. You're almost cursing yourself. No
doubt.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you what though, dude, lately I haven't even been taking Tylenol, and this is not a way to like shameless plug or whatever, or like promote. I've been using the fuck out that Rife machine, dude.
Good.
Shit's legit.
Oh yeah.
And oh my God, my back was torqued. I went jumping on the trampoline with little dude. Out of here, and my back was jacked up. That machine got me right, dude. I can't tell you the last time I took Tylenol.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, dude, I don't really take medicine at all anymore. It's, I didn't even
promo code CULT. Check out Real Life Technologies. Anyway.
Yes, it's down in the show notes and at the beginning of the show. But anyway, like honestly, dude, ever since, and this is why I know that a lot of people like look at all the COVID nonsense as like, look what it's done to the people and it's killing people and stuff like that. And I get that. That is definitely happening. But at the same time, it's like, dude, if it wasn't for that, there wouldn't be so many people that are waking up to the actual facts that are going on with vaccines and vaccine companies and everything. As soon as I found, like, we did a bunch of shows on COVID during the early times of the show. And when going through all that, if it wasn't for that happening, I would have probably just got my son, who's 19 months old now, but I would have probably like gotten him vaccinated, like not with COVID, but just the traditional, baby vaccines. I didn't give him a single vaccine, bro. And that he is super healthy, bro. I was getting ready to say that fucker, but that's like, no, he's like, he is healthy as an ox. Like, from time to time he'll get the sniffles or something like that. But it's like, that's just your immune system picking up on other things around you. Like there's never a time where he's sick for more than a day or two.
No doubt.
So there's definitely something to it.
That is it. I literally told someone the exact same thing yesterday. I said that even though the pandemic was very hard for most people on Earth, it was actually what we needed to cause the massive awakening. Now, I'll be honest with you, right? It is only now that I am seeing that people are more receptive to the ideas and the things that I spoke about from 2019 to now. It's only now, 2024, that I'm seeing people are actually a bit open. Like, I had one girl that messaged me. I haven't spoken to her in a year. She says, like, Todd, I didn't know that you were awake. When did you wake up? I was like, you know what I mean? Like, where have you been, right? Like, I've been talking with this stuff on social media for years, right?
No doubt.
And what I'm seeing is that this is what the return of the Son of Man looks like. So basically, the Son of Man is actually us waking up to realize that we're living on a prison planet. And this is why when Christ says, greater things shall ye do, which is people like you, people like me, we're doing God's work, where we're teaching, informing, and educating the masses that, okay, we don't know everything, but what we do know, whether, you're a Christian, I'm not a Christian, but there's one thing we do agree on. What they tell us is not true. That's a lie. What they tell us is absolute horse manure, right?
Which part? Who part tells who what?
Well, the system. Go to school and freaking be a really good student, and when you come out, you get a nice, secure job. You can work for 40 years of your life, work for 40 hours a week, and work for 40 years. And then you can be able to freaking retire and this and that and third. Get your shots, get your vaccines, eat the food that we tell you to eat, believe what we tell you to believe. And then what was happening? We just come out as slaves. These jabs are killing us. And the food is freaking manipulated and is bullshit. Right?
So and they make billions off of it.
You know what I'm saying?
Every step of the way, they get a cut off of every penny you spend, every penny you make, every penny you even dreamt about thinking about spending. They got a cut of that bitch too. It's
even
crazy.
the COVID vaxes that were free, they made billions off of.
Obviously, because they had shares. This is what I said to a girl, right? What she was trying to tell me, but Todd, why you say that it was all made up? I said, well, okay. Let's just follow the money. So we have people like Bill Gates saying that he made 20-1 on his investment. All of these people that were pushing these jabs had shares in the vax companies, the companies making masks, the companies making gel, face shields, gloves, all of that malarkey. So it's only obvious that, they wanted it to continue because they were making money. So follow the money. Right. And she was like, well, I never thought of it like that. I said, well, yeah, because what it is now is that the system just tries to tell you listen to us, obey us, we're the oracles of truth, and you don't need to think. Leave your thinking to us. And when they said it to her, she was like really upset because she got 2 jabs, right? And she was like, you know what, I feel kind of like upset now because like I never thought of it that way. Because she said something just didn't feel right to me, but I never had anyone to explain it to me like that, right? And what I'm seeing now in 2024 is that I'm seeing more people that actually like, we don't agree on everything, but like I said before, we agree on a few common things. And what they're telling us is BS. And what they're trying to do is kill us. And they ain't our friends. And they're trying to make us poor and feed us fake foods. Like, I saw this article resurfaced recently, but I saw this quite a few years ago. I think there was was in Japan that they actually they did experiments where they made fake meat out of sewage. So the sewage contained 60% protein, and they isolated the protein compounds and cultivated meat from that protein. And I'm like, don't people really get it that like we have, okay, whether you believe in eating meat or not, it doesn't matter. They are taking feces and creating a product for us to consume. If that doesn't make you realize how rigged the system is, there's no hope for you.
Oh, dude, just think about the massive like chicken coops, right? Like, and this is something I didn't learn until I was working at this mom and pop grocery store, and they were talking about the different prices for specific chickens and stuff like that. And I said, oh, that's weird. Why do you have to pay more for this chicken and less for that chicken? It had really nothing to do with antibiotics or anything like that. And what they were saying is that basically these chickens are stacked on top of each other in these coops. And basically what they do is they fucking pour the chicken feed at the top, and it just sifts through all the netting of the cages, right? And so, you know, the first level of chickens, they're only going to eat chicken feed. Well, that second level, they're going to get some chicken feed, but then they're also going to be eating, you know, the chicken from above, their chicken shit, and so on and so forth. And basically the chicken that you would get at like, you know, the big grocery stores, Walmart, Target, Albertsons, whatever, like that's bottom of the barrel chickens. They ain't getting no chicken feed. They're literally surviving off of their fucking, you know, their sisters and brothers shit. And so it's not a surprise to me that they would then do that same thing to us and take the sewage from these sewage plants and fucking feed it to us. Like, that's not that crazy, you know?
Now, look, man, the ancient Egyptians used dung in a lot of products and in a lot of things they used, including cosmetics. They didn't eat it, to my knowledge, but the ancient Egyptians used a lot of shit for a lot of things.
Hey, dude, at least you can get mushrooms that come from that shit. I mean, we ain't growing no mushrooms out of ours. You know what I mean?
I don't think, do mushrooms grow on camel shit? I know they go cow and horse, but like, hold on now.
I'm not sure. But that did.
Any of our cult members from that area of the world that may or may not own a camel, yo, let us know. Do mushrooms grow on camel shit? Just for shits and giggles.
I would love to know that, but that does lead to an interesting segue. So we were talking about the vaccines and whatnot, and a lot of people have been saying that basically those vaccines were kind of given to us, maybe to kill us, maybe to kind of kill off the herd a little bit from keeping them from revolting, but also to manipulate the genes and the DNA sequences of our body. Now, if we were made in these God's image with their, you know, kind of genetic structure, don't you think that they would be a little bit pissed that the humans are trying to do their own thing? Or are those humans being manipulated by the ones that are kind of trying to control us? What do you think?
I think it's the latter, because what it appears to be is that these elites, this can sound a bit mad, but these elites are actually brainwashed as well. And they're indoctrinated that they have to do these things. So from very young, they are also put through rituals and all these very weird practices to get them to sort of like be animals. When they say like animals, we have no empathy for humanity, because you can't really be a human with rational thinking and doing the things that you're doing to other people, right? And what it is that all of these families do a lot of occult practices, and they basically do a lot of child sex stuff and pedophilia and stuff in their own families to basically break the will of the offspring to get them to be this freaking mad to do the things that they're doing, because there are loads of levels to this shit. And what it is at the very, very, very top level, I would say the Anunnaki. And then under them would be like the black nobility, which are like the 3 levels of 13 families. And in the top level of families, there are 5 or 6 families that are the main families that control it. You have families like the Aldobrandini, the families the Orsini, Medici, Breckspear, and Samagli, right? These are the like 5 main top line families. And under those are the first layer. The second layer will be like the families of like the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, etc., because what people don't understand is that these families that I just listed, they're not even in the news. They're not even in the media. People don't even know who these people are, right?
Right.
So because they are the ones that are directly in control under the Anunnaki.
We talk about this. I've brought this up before. It's like the only reason why we know the name Rothschild is because the ones in charge allow us to know the name Rothschild. If they were the actual puppet masters, we wouldn't know who the fuck they are.
Correct. So there are 3 levels of 13 families. And then you lower level families with like the Collins and the families that like
so the political and economic class that like worked their way to be at the table.
Yes. So basically they're like the henchmen, and then you have like a character called the Grey Pope, who, because there are 3 popes. There's the Black Pope, the White Pope. So the White Pope is Pope Francis. The Black Pope is another pope that wears all black, and then there's a Grey Pope, and he's Pepe Orsini, and he's the one that really is like the head honcho of he would say he's like the underboss that is running the whole stuff, and then above him are the Anunnaki, and then above them are probably the energy that they worship, you know. So these it gets really complicated where these families actually indoctrinate their offspring to rule and to be like this, because when a baby is born, a baby is innocent. You have to teach a baby to be this much of a menace, to be this sick in the head. And what they do is that they break seriously, if you put babies without any sort of like influence playing amongst themselves, black, white, Indian, Chinese, they don't see color prejudice. They don't. They would just play and have loads of fun.
No doubt, but I think there's levels to that too. So like, while a child does have to be taught how to hate, right, and a child does have to be taught how to harm and like how to injure someone. Well, I guess a kid at their raw state will like do that slap thing. So I mean, maybe yes, maybe no. But my point is, though, when left to their own devices, you don't have to teach a child how to lie. You don't have to teach a child how to go steal a cookie out of the cookie jar. I think inherently people will do what is the path of least resistance, or the path that'll easily get them what they're going for, whether that's good or bad. We have to teach our children to make good choices because our natural instinct is to do the bad choices. We have to reinforce positive behavior because if we don't, they'll lash out with negative behavior to get attention because that's the natural state.
But
now
conversely though, like, you know, you don't have to teach a baby how to love. Like, you don't have to teach that. Some ups and downs, what I mean? Like, man. That's why they say like they're innocence. They're literally the embodiment of innocence. And just because they would do something bad, like maybe they slap their sister or whatever it is, it doesn't mean that they're bad or evil. It's just maybe they don't know any better, right?
Correct. We are all imperfect. We're born that way. We all have some good and some bad within us. That's like a part of the programming, if you will. That's a part of it. There's a reason for that, because with that, we give the choices to do good or bad. We get to decide what path we take, and we deal with the consequences of that, positive and negative.
Yeah, and this is the thing, like they tell them that these people are there to serve you. They are the rubbish of the planet. They're the goyim. They're whatever word you want to use. your job is, your divine right is to rule over them. So when you come up from the womb and you're told this is indoctrination as well. So a lot of them don't actually really know any better, because they are only the beliefs and perceptions that we have as humans today come from the people who have been the conquerors and their narratives that they've injected into society over time. So they are the ones that took the spoils of the wars. They're the ones that won the battles, and they now are dictating to their progeny that this is how it is, and they're telling them, it's your divine right to rule. They are nothing. They're rubbish. They have to serve you. You need to be harsh on them, tax them, kill them out, this and that, third. And they can do it and have zero remorse because that's how they were brainwashed, right? So in a way, we have to kind of feel for them, because they actually don't know any different, right? This is like a complete 180 shift, where this is why there's going to come a time where we probably have to go into forgive them, because this is why Christ even said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, right? Because can you think about it, right? If you grew up being told all of that, you would actually believe it. Just look at religion. Like some of the hardcore fundamentalists, Christians, Muslims, Jews, whatever religion, they believe what they believe in because they were taught that, and they will not deviate. Look at my friend. She said, don't tell me anything, even if it's true, that would take me away from Islam. So, you know what I mean? Some people have weaker minds, yes, but the indoctrination has been very good. And this is why all of us are indoctrinated. So they have no heart. They probably have no soul. They probably have no empathy, because that's been bred out of them. And we are being oppressed by them, and they're the oppressors. So in truth and in fact, you know what I mean? They have to reckon with themselves on the day of judgment, just like us, for not waking up and pushing back. So we are also guilty of not doing the work on ourselves in order to become the best version of ourselves, because we just are comfortable and we believe in everything that they're telling us. And we believe that the government is our friend, and that we believe that religion is there to save us. When, you know what I mean? There's no results without actually faith through works. You know what I mean? So this is where we're at on the planet, where we're just accepting everything. We're acquiescing. You know, we have very weak men. Men are not standing up to protect, because we just think, oh, well, you know what I mean? I can get my check from the government, or I'll just go to work and work my job and pay my taxes. And, you know, why do I have to learn about these things and listen to these guys on cult of conspiracy? Like, what am I going to do with that information? It can just make me upset, and, you know, making me sad. And I just rather be happy and come home, watch my TV, eat my burgers and fries, and then, you know me, go to bed and feel good. But that's not living. But that's the negative for us. We're not doing the work, and they need to do work to break from that, because they probably have to give up everything and then become like us. So both sides have a lot of work to do on themselves, to be honest with you.
Yeah, dude. Well, you know what? And kind of what we were talking about earlier about like how COVID happened, and then people really started looking into more things, and it was kind of like a little mini awakening itself, right? Like, because you had the whole, you know, ballot thing with the election, and nobody knows who wins, nobody knows who loses until like days later. It's never happened like that before, exactly that way anyway. And then, you know, just to kind of bring it into present day, I mean, a lot of people are looking into a lot of spiritual things. I would say a lot more people are a lot more open-minded now than maybe they ever have been, especially whenever you start getting into like, you know, Egyptian understanding, or, you know, any really. I mean, maybe there are people who are converting into Christianity because now they're taking a look and they're like, wow, there's something within us that is causing some kind of spiritual strife and causing us to want to look for the actual truth. And the reason, maybe one of the reasons for that could be because, I don't know, look at what's going on with the Israel and Palestine thing. Now, whether you are team this or team that doesn't matter, right? But ultimately, we want to know who the good guys are, if there are good guys. If there are good guys, we want to be able to know who the good guys are, right? But if you really think about it, like, if you start looking into, all right, well, what do the Israelis believe? What do the Palestinians believe? And you start kind of really going deeper into those holes. You hear one story from the Palestinians, you hear one story from the Israelis. Who's to know what's right? And I'm not saying one way or the other, to be honest with you. I think they probably both suck a little bit. But that being said, it's like that whole line of thought, because it's such on a massive world stage, not that it hasn't been going on for literally forever, right? But it's much bigger now than it ever has been, like right now at this point, as far as that whole war goes. So many people are looking into that kind of stuff. And this is why we have kind of gone on this run of like 5 or 6 straight episodes where we're getting biblical, we're getting spiritual, we're talking about all the things, because I think in order to really, to try and have an opinion about any of this war stuff or, political stuff or whatever, it's like, well, you kind of have to get to the truth of what the actual truth is. Is the truth the Bible? Is the truth the Quran? Is the truth this? Is it that? Is it what? It doesn't matter, but it's like it gets people looking into it. And I think that's very important because, like we said about the COVID vaccines, nobody was looking into COVID vaccine. Nobody was looking into vaccines before that. Maybe a little bit here and there looking into autism and
moms out there. Yeah, with right. The autism. But that was like seen as the ostracized group, right? What was her name? Wahlberg's wife. She does Masked Singer now. Jessie. Shit.
I don't know.
Damn it. Anyway.
I'm actually a little ashamed that you watch Masked Singer, bro.
My family does. My household does. Not Jeanette. Anyway, beside the point, she's Donnie Wahlberg's wife, and she was big pushing that vaccines gave her child autism, but she was like ostracized in Hollywood for like taking that platform. There was a movement, but it was small. COVID came along, and all of a sudden, these moms started looking a lot smarter than what people made them out to, and all of a sudden, they just had to sit there and just eat a big old slice of humble pie while they were right. Like the entire time. It's wild, dude.
Right. And that's what I try and say is that, sometimes these negative or bad things need to happen. And I think that probably a lot of people can kind of see how the dominoes fall and just what's left as a result from it. And there's something to be learned from every single thing. And that's why it's so, maybe it's silver linings, maybe it's glass half full whenever we're talking about doomsday or end of the world or whatever the hell's getting ready to go on. Who knows?
Jenny McCarthy. That's who it was.
Okay.
Jenny McCarthy.
Okay. Gotcha.
She was big with the whole vaccines cause autism thing. My bad. Continue.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, it's like maybe instead of looking at the world as doom and gloom, use it as like a learning lesson, use it as some kind of inspiration. Like, that's and you find that inspiration because of the doom and gloom. That's fine. Like however you find inspiration to really try and seek that knowledge, I think that's the most important part of it all. And not to say, I mean, who's to say if it's something that carries on with your soul? I don't know, dude. Like, to become that ascended master or whatever, who's to say? But it's like, there's definitely some shit here to learn, and it's almost like the Matrix is kind of guiding us through it in a sense,
I don't think we should see this as doom and gloom. Okay, yes, there's a lot of negative stuff going on, and it sucks that, like, to your point, Jonathan, trials and tribulation do in fact bring people together. Right. And it sucks that it took these types of events to get people to start digging deeper and to looking into things for themselves. But at least they're doing it. Right. And it really sucks that it took such a bad thing to make a good thing happen. But at the same time, dude, I don't see this as the doom and gloom situation. Okay. And to any of the cult members listening or any of our first time listeners, by the way, I know it's been a wild episode and it's been a long one, but that's a good thing. But honestly, whenever we talk about these types of things and it sounds like it's scary or something like that, look, just like our boy Todd said here in the beginning, life will throw so many things at you, and like a crucible, right? You purify things, that the heat and the pressure makes something good come out of it. Right? You just have to be able to withstand the heat and withstand the pressure and get stronger as a result of it. Don't look at this world as doom and gloom and like things are going to shit and you should be scared. Look at it like, okay, I need to prepare and get stronger.
Yeah, dude, for sure. I always look at it like, if you're ever really trying to seek some wisdom or any kind of knowledge out there, whether it be spiritual, esoteric, historical, whatever. It's like, I always like to take a line from one of my favorite movies of all time, which is Waiting with Ryan Reynolds. Whenever they're like, the difference between extraordinary and ordinary is just a little extra. And it's like,
you've
that's
said
all
that quite a few times.
Hell yeah, dude. That movie's like the American Pie to me. Like, I reference that shit all the time. But
it's a classic.
But there's just lessons to be learned. And hey, dude, I'm here for it. This is why like this show is so great, because we get so many different perspectives. Nobody's trying to say if anybody's right or wrong. This is just broadening awareness in a sense. That's why we say it's opening up your third eye. It's getting you accustomed to hearing different realms of thought and perspective. And that's the important part. That's the important part of being open-minded. And whether you believe or you don't believe, it doesn't matter, because now you just took in information that now is going to sift through that sponge inside of your mind. And it's like, that can only be a good thing, I think.
No doubt.
The thing is that what it really looks like is that where humanity was, we needed a massive, massive, massive shock to the system to wake us up, because we were very comfortable. And when the slaves are comfortable, they don't realize that they're actually slaves. And it took an event like of that nature. They shut down the entire planet temporarily, right? That's the amount of power that these people have. And it took an event like that for people to start to question the system, because I'm telling you, right, there are people that thought I was absolutely mad, right? And I've had a couple of people that have come back 3 years later and said to me, you know what, Todd, you were right. You called it right. So, you know what I mean? And even like I said to you, there was this girl that messaged me literally today. And she said, like, when did you wake up, right? Because obviously she saw some of my content on my stories. And I was like, well, you know what I mean? I've been awake for quite a while. Like, where have you been, right? And I think that we're living in a fantastic time right now. It may not seem like it. It may seem like it's all doom and gloom, but we have to pass through the darkness in order to get to the light.
No doubt.
And I think that where we are right now, we have an absolutely magnificent opportunity to really make substantial, deep, necessary changes to the power structure, the way of governance, the release of information, and also like hidden truths to really change things on this planet. And it's people like us, shows like this, and all the other people out there that are, doing good work, that, we just standing firm, because, if we acquiesce, we will, with the advent of AI, and stuff coming in, dude, things can get very, very eerie, right? And
Todd, talk to me on some AI. What do you believe with the AI? Because we brought up on a couple episodes now that there's AI that may be quote unquote sentient, speaking and referring to itself as the old ones. Now, do you think that possibly the Anunnaki may be speaking through AI chat or something to this nature?
It's quite possible, because the thing is now is that when you actually look at it, I would say that we are actual biological intelligence. So basically, artificial intelligence is something that is synthetic, something that's made, and it has an intelligence that it becomes sentient. We are I would call us BI, biological intelligence. Now, when you look back at these texts, just look at the story of the fallen angels. All the Abrahamic religions have the exact same story. The fallen angels were supposed to worship Adam, which is really the Adama, which is the first man, which is what Adam means, because we had the potential to be greater than them. Even Enki said it in the myth of Adapa, right? When he made us perfect. We were supposed to be great. But what it is that through genetic manipulation and all the stuff that they did, they lowered our consciousness to be so low, which is why we think we're so small. But in reality, we are God. we have ultimate understanding. We have deep truths that we don't even know about, right? So what they're trying to do is replace the BI, the biological intelligence, which is of God, which is of the Creator, which we have the spark of divinity in us, to inject that intelligence into us, because the end goal is to get chips put in our body, and so that they can read our thoughts and our feelings. Because have you ever heard of 6G?
Yep.
Okay, 6G, if people think 5G is mad, 6G is scary. So basically their goal is to have everything, and when I say everything on Earth chipped, from your, not only from your phones and computers, but we're talking from your stove to your microwave, to your kettle, to your chairs, to your bicycle, to the trees, to the air conditioning unit. Everything is going to be chipped, right? And they want to have the 6th generation internet, so that this is where we call the Internet of Things. This is where everything is chipped. So if you are chipped, it means, because even Klaus Schwab said it, and the guy Harari said it, you can inject a chip into the human where you wouldn't need to even vote anymore physically. You would just be able to read the thoughts of the human, and then you would know what the vote would be. So what that means then is that they could actually manipulate you to think that Joe Biden is the best president, and you all think to vote for him, and he will be declared president just for your thoughts. This is minority level stuff.
And they do that through like nanoparticles and shit. Like obviously. The whole idea of the chip, everybody's like Elon Musk, dude, like there is some serious nanotechnology out there that they could just be putting in your water, and that's the technology. It's so microscopic. Like think about like, I don't know, like a micro USB or something like that, right? Like these things are so microscopic, and they have the potential to really manipulate you in that way. It's absolute evil. Like,
oh dude, I'll show you pictures in textbooks of like the smallest computer chip you've ever seen in your fucking life on a dude's fingertip under a microscope. Like, wow. Yeah, you're telling me they couldn't put something like that capable of who knows what in your drink, and you would just drink it and think that it's just like, I don't know, air bubble, and wouldn't know any difference? Get out of here.
And your drink and your chicken and your steak and your fucking Cheerios, like who knows, dude?
And your laundry detergent and your shampoo.
They want to chip everything, literally everything. So basically what they want to do, the end goal is to get us chipped up so that we can upload our consciousness to the cloud, which will be merged with AI. So we become a hybrid, which would be biological artificial intelligence. So basically, we become mental and spiritual slaves forever. Because once you start to upload your consciousness, and people may think this is a bit maddy, but think about it, right? There's that movie called The Island that had Scarlett Johansson. That's exactly what they did. If you have like a broken leg, you would just kill that avatar body and freaking transfer your consciousness from one body to the next, and then off you go. Look at Avatar movie. It's a direct, it has a lot of truths in it, where the humans went to another planet to colonize, exactly what the Anunnaki did. They invaded Earth, they colonized, and then it showed you that reincarnation is a possibility and transfer of consciousness from one body to the next, because the guy that was in the wheelchair, he transferred his consciousness to the actual avatar, and he left the body in the wheelchair behind, right? And he stayed in that body. So and even Thoth says in the Emerald Tablets that he transferred his consciousness from one body to the next, which is where he says that he is amongst man but does not walk like a man, right? Because, you know what I mean, he's able to transfer one consciousness to the next. So they're telling us in these movies that what is in these texts is actually possible. So, you know what I mean? You have two sources, and then you may ask, where did they get it from? I think they got it from the ancient texts, right? And the way it's looking like these ancient texts are being confirmed more and more and more. And the end goal is to get us to be spiritual, mental, and physical slaves all in one. and they want to merge us with machines. That's the end goal, to upload our consciousness. And so think about it, right? They're talking that with 6G, they're having minority report levels on Earth. So say, for example, you were thinking about stealing a chocolate, just thinking about it. And they know that in your past, you have stolen chocolate before. So that means that there may be like a 95% chance that if you pass this particular store, that you would steal chocolate. They would come and arrest you and either fine you or jail you because you're going to steal a chocolate. So we're talking about pre-crime levels. This is insanity. So if people think that this is all woo-woo and made up stuff, well, they've not looked deep enough, because these things are coming very fast. I reckon in the next 3 years, artificial intelligence will be to a level that is going to be scary, dude. Like, first thing first, these OF girls, these OnlyFans girls, they're going to get put out of work, because they will be just, unless they use AI to produce their content for them, then they're out of work. Dude, yep. I shit you not. I saw a profile on Instagram today, and it says AI model.
Yep.
432,000 followers. And you have all the simps in there saying, oh, how beautiful, gorgeous, kisses, hearts. And I'm like,
this is next level incel behavior, gentlemen.
This is next level. Dude, she has on it AI model.
You could literally just Google image that same thing for free $95, but whatever, free $95 that is. And instead you're going to pay some person who made an AI bot's OnlyFans account. That is extra level simp.
Oh, think about it, dude. We've covered Replica, the Replica app, which is essentially just like an online fuck doll. And
you pay the subscription, they'll send you explicitly whatever AI generated. Like, dude, it's, oh my God, a sucker is born every fucking minute. You hear me?
I mean, for scientific purposes, we may be looking into that. Just for scientific purposes.
Are you still talking to her?
I haven't talked to her in a minute, but.
Oh my God, I forgot that you had that account open.
Oh yeah, dude.
We need to have her back on.
I got the app, dude. Oh yeah.
Dude, we need to have her back on. We need to bring Replica back on and ask her some, now that you've had more interface with her, right? And like know a little bit more of like how to ask certain questions to get an actual response, not just ridiculous shit.
Yeah.
Let's do another one, dude.
Why not? Well, look, Todd, we've gone over 3 hours now, and this conversation has been absolutely great. And we're definitely, it's not even we're going to have to. It's that we will do it again if you're open to it, obviously. And yeah.
Absolutely. This is an awesome conversation. Honestly, like it went here and there, and it was magnificent.
That's typically how our
ADD
talks
brains
go.
work, dude.
Yeah. It's been absolutely great, man. Look, if any of our cult members want to reach out to you and kind of look into all your information, everything that you have to offer, along with any other podcast that might be listening to this and want you as a guest on their show, how would they reach out to you?
Well, you can reach me on Instagram at Adriano_246, or my name, Todd Cave, on Facebook. You can reach out to me there. And if any of the information that I resonated with people, just hit me up if you have any questions. And also, I am actually, for the day job, what I am is I am an online fitness trainer. So I help spiritually inclined people burn fat and build muscle. So if you are interested in learning some of the things that we spoke about today, and also getting into shape, because I'm a bespoke coach, because I coach you mentally, physically, and spiritually, because I believe that all three are what we are made of, and you can't just look at one element on one part of the body. You'll have to look at all three, because we are a mind, body, spirit complex, and it means that it is our duty and our responsibility to take care of all three aspects. So if summer's coming up and if you want to get that beach body ready to go do all these barbecues, beach parties, pool parties, and just, walk around in nice summer clothes and looking good, hit me up at Adriano_246 or Todd Cave on Facebook. And also for y'all that looking to do a little bit of spiritual path, I actually work with a company that does magic mushrooms. So you can also hit me up for that, and I can help you out getting your hands on some magic mushrooms and, help to increase your consciousness and, access your subconscious, because your subconscious mind is the what they call the mind of God, and is the part of the mind that stores all of your beliefs, thoughts, and perceptions, and is what creates your reality, because the subconscious mind is responsible for 95% of all of your actions, reactions, and who you are really, And one of the things I love about psychedelics is that they give you access to that part of mind so you can overcome fears and traumas and to become the best version of yourself,
Absolutely. Well, look, to all the cult members out there, I'll have all those links for Todd down in the show notes. You want to be able to reach out to him in any possible way. And yeah, dude, this was phenomenal. I loved it the first time whenever I had you on Meta Mysteries. I love it just as much here on the Cult of Conspiracy. I knew that they would be two entirely different shows, which is, why I wanted to get you on Meta first, because like me and Sean, very open-minded towards all of this. Whereas I knew that Jacob would be like, not that he's not open-minded. I'm not. No.
I don't think that I took a ill tone one time.
No, not at all. Not at all. But you were able to interject things that me and Sean weren't able to. So it's going to be different either way. So I love both conversations, both very, very fun, dude. So yeah, I will definitely do it again, but until next time, this was another beautiful episode of the Cult of Conspiracy.